when we were in Maine, we were having like really deep conversations. We were also just like talking about bullshit and laughing, and like just being out there in nature with a group of people like that made me realize, I'm like, dude, like we really, like, as a species don't need much to like be happy.
Yeah,
and
we
like
talked about that earlier.
and so, yeah, exactly. We don't really need much to like go off of, like just food, water, shelter, good group of guys, and just like being open-minded. Like literally that's really all you need, like, and like some sort of and survival skills, like in terms of like being able to like live out there in the wild, which a lot of us can't, because, you know, we've moved so much into like this corporate like industrialization kind of world. But like it made me realize, like, if I really wanted to, bro, like if someone had a crib in Maine like that, or like maybe some more, like even more like remote place like Wyoming, like you could literally just be out there with your boys with some food and shit, and just like literally just be chilling, bro. Like, let's go on a hike to like this little reservoir or like this little lake, and like let's just like walk for like miles, and then like, hey, like, oh shit, like it's getting dark, like we can't even make it back in time, like it's okay, like let's just see how it is to camp, like shit like that. Like you get so much more out of experiences like that than like, yo,
another day in the office.
Yeah, like another day in the office, or like, yo, like I'm trying to go to the strip club, like, you know what I mean? Like shit like that. Like, I don't know. And it made me realize, like, I really haven't really appreciated nature throughout my entire life until like really now. And like there's been other times where I've gone on vacation, I really like, wow, like I'm kind of like stunned by just like what I'm seeing, but like it's only for a brief glimpse in time. And I was really young at the time, so I really didn't take into account like how like cool it was to be out there. And like now that I'm older and I'm a lot more reflective, like I really thought, I was like, no, like this is where I want to be. Like this is where I want to be able to like be financially stable enough where I can afford like a house in an area like this, where I can get away and just let my mind run amok and just be able to get away from everything, you know what I mean? Yo.
All right, man. Let's do this shit.
It's good to be here.
Good to be here, man. Pleasure coming back to Montclair. Third time in my life being up there.
Third time. You said, well, the first time was because you're your best friend?
No, the first time was a podcast.
Podcast. Oh, so that second time you
was,
came was after what was it called? The Green...
Ridgefield? I think it was Ridgefield. I can tell you that story. It was actually pretty lit. So we were checking. I told you we were checking out the Sweet Greens, right? Yeah. Fuck, it's really pouring, bro. Yeah. So we were checking out Sweet Greens, and there's not that many locations near our house, and we thought we were gonna go to Philly to check it out, but we found this one in Morristown, which is only like 20-30 minutes from where we live. So we drove up to Morristown. You know where Morristown is?
Yeah, it's about like probably like 30 to 25 minutes away from Montclair.
Yeah. So we finished eating there, and slight tangent, like the Sweet Greens in Morristown, their management was shit. They're giving, imagine a Chipotle portion of chicken, half that, and that's their double portion. Like, they were being absolute fucking, I don't even know what to say, but. And then everyone was complaining about it, and they just wouldn't give us more, and they were charging a crazy amount of money for double. I'm saying, okay, at least charge me for a single portion if you're giving that much. And, but we went to another one the same day because we wanted to see if it's like the same everywhere. Yeah. So we ended up going to somewhere called Ridgefield, which is near Montclair. I think 20 minutes west of Montclair, just because my friend, he grew up there in Ridgefield. So, and he moved from Ridgefield when he was 10, and he hadn't visited that spot ever since then.
Really?
Yeah. So we ended up just going around and driving around, and for him it was going through memory lane because he hasn't been here in like a decade. Yeah. Just checking out his old crib and everything, his old town. And we ended up pulling up to his old crib and parking outside of it. And we're like, we wonder who lives here now. So we ended up just walking up to the door and ringing the doorbell. And we're like, let's see who it is. And there was a suitcase at the door, right? And the family who lives there now, they just like travel. Her husband travels a lot for work. So she thought we were from the airport. We were dropping off the suitcase that got lost in like the airport. So she's like, as soon as she opens the door, she's on a phone call. She's like, yo, where can I sign? We're like, what is she talking about?
Yeah, dude.
But we ended up telling her that he used to live here. She was shocked. She gave us a whole tour of the house, and it was amazing.
That's cool, dude.
My friend, they kind of changed up the house a lot. They worked on the house.
Kind of tough that like some random bros pull up to her crib and like, oh yeah, I used to live here, and she was like so welcoming enough that she allowed you guys to like come inside and tour it.
Amazing, yeah. She was really nice, and I think the lesson I learned from that is, I low-key would have never done that on my own if he didn't push me to do it. Yeah. But I think humanity and people are a lot more nicer and a lot more welcoming you think.
Yeah.
And you should just take those chances to do epic shit. Like that, even for me, who's never lived there, like it was a fun moment. Seeing like him reminisce on this old house where he used to live when he was like 5-6 years old. Yeah. That was the second time. Because then we ended up going to Montclair from there, driving back. But,
yeah, I feel like we take for granted sometimes, like how genuine and nice, like the overall like majority of our human race is. Like we're like, cause like I don't know, I was in Maine with my boys like last week, and on Thursday, like the day before we left, we took psychedelics, right? So we were like kind of like, not, I wouldn't say we were like off our shit, but like we were definitely like feeling some good vibes. Like we were kayaking on the lake and like overlooking the mountains and mad cool. And then like along like towards the later part of the trip, we were like, okay, let's go on like a little walk or like a little hike. So we decided to walk about like half a mile to like 3/4 of a mile to this bridge area, cause like he kind of lived like in this woods that was like that you can reach by driving by road.
It's near the coast, right, too?
Yeah, it's kind of by the coast, yeah. Okay. So you would reach like the neighborhood through like a main road, and basically the way to get into like the neighborhood was like a little dirt road that came in like sideways. So we walked, basically we were tripping still. We walked all the way back to the main road, and then we took that main road to this bridge. And on the bridge, it was basically like 15-20 feet above water, but it was like deep enough where you could jump off of it. So we went there so that we can jump off the bridge, and like it's kind of tough, like jumping off the bridge while you're like tripping a little bit.
How much is 15-20 feet? Like this house? Or less?
Probably a little less than this house. It's gotta be like 20,
like that would be pretty deadly,
30.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, probably like
this edge?
like between this edge and the top of the house.
Okay, so it wasn't terrible. Yeah.
It wasn't terrible, but it was still pretty high. But when we got there was like a wife and her husband, and then like their 2 kids. And obviously when we got there, we were just like chill, like we're not trying to like disrespect or like, you know, get in their way. Cause they looked like they were having a good time, like a family kind of bond, right? But then I don't know, something was just telling me to like just kind of say what's up. Like I just wanted to say hi to them for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know if it was the shrooms or just like the energy I was feeling from it, or just it just being such a nice day, and they looked like they were like really nice. So I don't know. I think it was just like I started talking to them a little bit, and they just seemed like super genuine, and they were like sharing the bridge with us. They were like, oh yeah, like yeah, you can like jump right here, because like we didn't want to get in the way of them, like in their little, like you're having like a little family moment, you know what I mean, like. And I asked them, I was like, oh yeah, how often do you guys come up here? They're like, oh, like annually probably, but like the kids love it because it's like a bridge, and then from the bridge there's like a 1-minute walk to like a nice little ice cream spot. So like it's a really nice little area. But then like just based off that encounter, I was like, no funny shit, like people are really nice, and like you don't really get to know that unless you kind of open yourself up to it. So
yeah, man,
that's a little realization I had on the trip.
It's amazing, yeah. I think it's so easy to feel like the world is such a dark place and a deranged place, and that people are just bad at heart. But I think most of the people that have those beliefs about the world, that people are just shit, have not really gone out and talked to many people in the first place. I think the problem arises with like news and social media that's so designed to make us think the world is such a dark place. And I'm not saying there's no problems in the world today. Definitely there's wars happening in the world, and definitely difficult things happening. But the world has never been more peaceful than it is today, despite the wars that are going on. Because back in the day, there was maybe 10, 20 times the wars from pretty much all of our history, even when we were tribal creatures. Like the group of 5 people in this tribe were fighting the people in that tribe, and even in our agricultural societies, like this farm is like there's people always clashing with each other. There's anger because, to be honest, the biggest problem in most of our history has been getting access to quality food, right? And people are always struggling with trying to get resources, and naturally, when you don't have access to resources, you're going to be more competitive and more fighting. But I'm not saying that just because we have a lot more resources, the world is better, because there's obviously other problems now with people getting obese and everything. With the overconsumption we have now, it's a new problem. But I think now that we have so much, it's easier and more comfortable for us to just go out and have experiences and be nicer to people. And I think that the world today, the people are so nice, and if you just go and try to be social, just go and try to talk to random people you meet, like you find out, first of all, so much more similarities you have with people that you would never would have thought. Like, going on trips, I be talking to people. Like I was in Goa, which is South India. It's like the beach town of India.
I'm assuming it's real nice too.
Yeah, it's nice. But we went in the monsoon season, so it was fucking pouring rain the whole time. We made a mistake. We didn't know it was raining. But I was just at the buffet at the breakfast, and I was just getting breakfast, and there's some guy over there. So I just started talking to him, like, "Yo, where are you from?" And he's from New Jersey too.
Wow, that's
like,
crazy.
What are the chances of that? You know, but. Yeah, the world's a great place, and most people have good hearts, which is something I like.
Definitely social media and just obviously technology just being at our fingertips probably limits just how much we engage, especially the younger generation, in terms of like with people like if they're not from our school or if they're not someone that we know in our contacts, like a lot of time you're going to be a little more hesitant to engage with them because you're kind of like thinking like back of your mind like, chill, like what are they going to say, what are they going to do, like you're already kind of having like you're already thinking on a negative mindset, and that stems from just like perceptions from that are gathered from social media like as a whole. And when I was like tripping on it, like every time I trip on the shrooms, bro, like I actually have a great experience, like because like every time I trip on it, like I just don't see the need to look at my phone. Like just holding my phone, I'm just like, why? Like I don't need this shit. I just throw it down, I put it somewhere, and then I end up just like doing whatever I want while I'm tripping, right? And the entire time I was like kayaking, I was we were just like swimming, we were like fighting each other like on like the dock and stuff like that. It was so fun. We were playing golf, we were like hitting golf balls off the dock, and like eating fruit and like I don't know, just eating like I ate some fruit. And then one of my friends also ate like a little piece of a Sour Patch. And like typically when you eat a Sour Patch, like obviously you know it's like super sugary and like it's not the best for you, but it still tastes pretty good. But like I don't know, when I was on the mushroom, I just felt like a hesitance to like even try it. And my friend who actually ate a piece of it spit it out immediately because it just felt bad. Like it just like had a bad taste in his mouth, and he didn't get a good feeling in his stomach when he started to like kind of like chew on it a little bit. But when I ate the fruit, when I was eating like a banana, I instantly, I don't know if it's placebo or anything like that, but like I immediately felt like I had some energy. Like I was like, let me go do something, dude. Like I don't know what it was, but maybe I was just feeling like the nutrients from the fruit a lot more when I was tripping than if I were to just like eat it normally, like just as like in the clean state. That's interesting. But yeah, I mean, bro, like realistically, like as like a species, bro, like all this shit we're doing now, like that's not our purpose, bro. Like on some deeper shit.
Like what shit you mean that we?
Like in terms of like global expansion, like industrialization, like all that. Yeah, it's great. Like what we can do now is amazing, and no one thought like we could ever where we are right now is like insane. And, like what we're able to do as a species is like almost like unimaginable compared to like other species that we compare ourselves to, like right. But realistically, I think as a species we came here to just, I think we were like meant to just help like other animals and other species as a whole, because we're so emotionally intelligent, right? And we have the ability to swim, we have the ability to walk, run, right? Mm-hmm. And I just feel like when I was on the shrooms, like it just made me realize like I don't really need technology like that. I don't really need like social media like to be in my life at all. Like I can literally just run off fruit, being on a lake house swimming, and then like I don't even know, just getting groceries, shit like that.
The simple things, right?
Yeah, just simple shit, like, and just like basic engagements with your friends and stuff like that. And then just like people, like you don't need the rest of that shit. You don't need Netflix, like, you don't need Instagram like that. You don't need video games like that.
It's a good realization you came to.
And even like the more serious stuff, like realistically, you don't really even need a job like that, right? If you actually know how to like survive in the wild, like people like there's people out there that don't even have jobs. They just literally live off like the resources around whatever little shelter and stuff they built themselves. And it's kind of insane, but like nowadays we're just so like handicapped to that because we're so infected with whatever this is and whatever's on here that we're just susceptible to just, now we have to go to college, we have to do this, we have to make money.
The system.
Exactly, the system. But like realistically, you don't need to be part of the system to be successful in your own mind. You don't need to be part of the system to still live. Like you can live like the same quality of life or even better if you were just to do like what we've been doing for hundreds and thousands of years as it is. But
yeah, that's an interesting point to bring up. I've had a similar kind of realization during my travels, and I'll get into that in more detail. But I guess this question of what really brings a person happiness is something that I've always been thinking about. Like, is it a Netflix? Is it a social media? Or is it just the simple things like doing your grocery shopping or spending time with your friends? And I've always thought in the back of my mind that this whole follow the system, make a lot of money, things are kind of bullshit. I kind of always had that feeling in the back of my mind, but I never had proof to show it. That if let's say I went down this other path where I stopped caring about all that shit and I just focused on family and times with my friends. Yeah. And then I end up seeing that, okay, that wasn't really the real source of happiness, and maybe they're right. So I don't have enough life experience to tell you what it is that really brings happiness, but I can say that I saw this in a little bit more detail when I was traveling to India, because I spent a week in my grandmother's house in Assam, which is a rural part of India on the east side, like really close to the China border.
Oh.
So it really opened my eyes to how quickly your life can change in a few days, and you can very quickly assimilate into a new kind of lifestyle. And that's one of the realizations I've had a lot of times when I traveled. Like last summer when I was in New Hampshire, I was telling you about. It was amazing how in about a week or two I just forgot about my life here. That quickly.
Yeah.
Like I'm all of a sudden talking to the guys here, like talking to the people here, and building a new people I talk to here, and doing new activities here, and doing things here. And I was like, oh yeah, like I have all these people back at home too, and this whole lifestyle here. I mean, I always feel that like it's amazing how we can so quickly assimilate into a new lifestyle. But back on topic, I think that the first few days when I was in that village or in Assam, it was actually kind of rough.
Really?
Because the other week, we were actually spending time in some pretty, I would say luxury hotels, in like the proper city in New Delhi and everything. Thank you.
Be careful with the computer.
Yeah, it should be okay. Yeah, we got the umbrella.
Okay,
It's all
right.
right. There you go.
Yeah, so
Nothing for you, right?
no. I'm okay.
We're
I'm
okay.
Thank you. This is
What
coffee.
Nah, it's okay, Grandpa.
I have my water right here. You got coffee?
Yeah, a little coffee. I'm about to drink some.
Yeah, listen. So we actually spent some time in some pretty like nice ass hotels, because we ended up going to India because my dad won some award from his company, and they had a big event in a fancy hotel, so he got his hotel sponsored from them. So we were able to spend time at the Baruah, which is a really nice hotel in New Delhi. And when we were in Grangola, we spent a little bit of money and we had like a nice resort. So fancy ass suite rooms with like the nice ass showers and nice ass food. All of a sudden I come here, there's fucking mouses living under my bed. I'm eating dinner and a tarantula is fucking crawling behind my head, bro. Mad bugs. I got bug bites. Like I'm turning these bumps right here. Like
Yeah.
I had allergic reactions from the bumps. The toilets smell like shit. The showers, like everyone's sharing them. It's so small house with 8 of us living in there. We have to put mosquito nets up when we sleep so that we don't get bit when we're sleeping. Like it's rough. It's pretty rough.
It's pretty rough.
It felt. The windows are always open, so there's always like random like earthworms and shit coming in.
But to like to someone that's from India, like that's just normal. Like that's
Yeah, I
just,
mean, I would say again, I don't want to like typecast India in this way because India's huge. Like
Yeah.
New Delhi's pretty modernized and urbanized, right?
Yeah.
But at least like these kind of rural areas of India, for sure.
Yeah.
Like for them, it's normal. For me, the first 2 days, like I had some pretty shitty sleep schedule too because I just came from traveling. I was a little jet lagged, so I had headache all day.
Yeah.
The heat was killing me. There's no air conditioning, like running in the house. It was so rough, and the power would go out like every couple hours.
Yeah.
So it took me a day or two to adjust, but then surprisingly, by the end of the week, I was like,
starting to get used to it.
I low-key don't want to go back because I realized that there were some things over there that brought me so much happiness that are less existent in my life here in America. And I'll go into.
What's
I
an
listed.
example,
Sorry.
I was about to say, like, what's an example?
Yeah, I had like 3 or 4. I think the biggest one was family.
Yeah.
Sure, it's a small house, so I don't have my space to myself anymore. Like, if I want to like do some shit on my computer, like do whatever I normally do in my house, in my room, where I have so much space, I got to do it there with 5 people sitting on me on a couch. Like, it's pretty packed, right? But at first it was annoying that I didn't have space to myself, but I really quickly realized that it felt really nice to have family around you. And I think in America, like, we have these big ass houses. There's 4 of us living in a big house, and
Walls.
I'm in my room, and my sister's like doing whatever she's doing in her room. My dad's downstairs on the couch. My mom's in this room. Like, we don't really interact with each other much, and we don't have much incentive to interact with each other when you have such a big house. So, sure, we were all up in our ass in that house in the village, but it honestly made me like happier to be around people.
It's good energy, like. Right
It
there.
fills you with this background of joy that you just have people around you, and for most of them, like I also respect them a lot because they're pretty healthy people. Like I'm lifting with my he's probably like an uncle-in-law. He's my dad's sister's husband. I don't know what you'd call that. Some kind of
Uncle-in-law, yeah.
Uncle-in-law, yeah. So yeah, I'll be lifting with him in the gym. Everyone's eating healthy. My grandma gets up at 4 in the morning and sleeps at 9. It's insane. She's really religious, so she's like doing these pujas and everything. They make amazing food over there, like fresh chicken, fresh fish. I was telling you in the gym that it's so healthy food because the chicken dies in the morning and it's in your stomach in 3 hours. Over here, like you have the plastic and the processing, and it's going through here. Here, they're adding the emulsifiers and additives. Over there, it's just pure fresh food. The fish caught in the river that's like 3 miles from my house. Pure food, healthy lifestyle, family. And one that's a little bit more controversial, but I would say that everyone seemed a lot happier in the traditional family dynamic. And I know that in the world today, it's really like big, like leaning toward feminism and how important feminism is and how important it is for women to work a job and to make their own money and to be financially secure. But while it's good for women to have the opportunity to do so if they want to. I think it's come to a point where they feel it's an obligation, and if you don't do it, it's somehow a bad thing.
Yeah.
If you want to be in America, you want to be a housewife in America, it's honestly really looked down upon. And I feel like even in girls that are growing up, and their communities will look down upon them for having a desire to be a housewife. But I've noticed in my own family and a lot of families in the West that my mother and women who try to work a job and work for the house are like honestly really miserable. And I feel really bad for my mom because she's a great person and there's so much she wants in life, but when she has a meeting going on in the other room on Zoom and she's trying to make the food over here and trying to clean the house while she also wants to work in this business. It's a lot, She's always like in her head all the time. It's so stressful.
And there's like nothing wrong with being like a housewife because realistically, like when we come to terms of like what the role of like a traditional family is for both the husband and the wife, they're both equally as important. Like, and when you're raising children, like you need someone there to make sure that they're in check and to make sure that they're learning the entire way. And for most of history, it's always been the man working, right? So he's usually absent a lot of the time in terms of like these educational periods for these children, especially at a young age. And that's where the mom would step in. And it's always nice to have like a motherly figure always around you at times to make sure that like, you know, everything's going to be okay, but to also make sure that you're learning at the same time. And when you have that dynamic going, I feel like it leads to then those kids having, you know, a good set of morals from a young age, a good set of values from a young age, and then them learning from that and applying it to their own families as they grow up and they start their own. And nowadays, I mean, we were talking about social media a lot, but that has to have like a large impact on exactly like the whole family dynamic now that is accustomed to, you know, both parents working. And I'm not saying that's bad at all. Like obviously it's great. Like, you know, women nowadays have a lot more opportunities than they did like 30 years ago. But at the same time, like we're also starting to see a lot of dilemmas in the, you know, in like the raising process for a lot of kids, at least in the States as it is. Whereas, you know, States a lot more.
It's a big problem in the West.
Yeah.
If you look, that just scared me. I think what happens is now kids have two fathers instead of father and mother.
Yeah.
And I think you said it perfectly, right? Motherhood used to be such a beautiful thing. Even if you read like ancient books, like women felt such a happiness in raising their kids. It's like something so internally, like the same way I think men have like such high testosterone and love to drive and love to like, push themselves. Women have this something inside of them that makes them like feel happy raising a kid, and I think kid really needs that figure in their life. And I think when both the father and the mother are working, the first problem is that the kid, there's no one really there to raise the kid, and parents kind of become absent in a way. And the second problem that happens is that when the father and the mother kind of have the same equal roles, there's less the necessity for each person, right? Like if a husband and the father are both, husband and the mother are both 50-50 in their roles, like they're both working a little bit and raising the kids a little bit, they don't really need each other as much as they needed before, right? When each person has their own role, there's a strong tie that's pulling them together that even if there's problems in the relationship and they want a divorce, they almost can't. And sometimes it's a bad thing, especially in this case of domestic abuse. I mean, that's a different scenario. But if you need each other so strongly, there's much less divorce. That's why in the East, the divorce rate is super, super low, right? Because most of the East has those traditional family dynamics. But if you look at the West, and the U.S. in particular, divorce rate is through the roof. Like, I think the majority of couples divorce in these. I think there's a higher chance of.
I think
divorce.
The minimum rate is like 50, but I'm pretty sure it's higher than that.
I'm pretty sure it's higher than 50.
I think it's like 70, 75.
It's really insane that you're more likely to get divorced than stay together. Like. And most people
it's increasing. It's increasing every year, which is just going to show that we're moving very far away from like that traditional dynamic that we've had for so many generations.
And I think a divorce, a single parent household, whether it's a father or a mother, is the worst thing for a kid.
Yeah,
absolute worst thing for the development of a kid. Even for their emotional development, which I think we overlook. Like we obviously look at education, we look at like financial security as important things for a child development, but we sometimes neglect the things like emotional development, which is so much research now that shows that the number one predictor of one of the highest predictors of their financial outcome in life is whether or not you have two parents. It's really, really high because there's something very interesting that happens in a child developing when they feel the security of a relationship between their parent and brother. It's something so deep in the back of their mind that when they see that security within them, they go on to have better relationships too. And often kids that grow up in an absent household often develop like those insecurities in relationships, and they develop those problems that they later have in their relationship because their attachment style and the way they end up dating and they end up marrying in the future is so tie into how their parents raised them, which I've been reading a lot about that because I find it so interesting. But it's
100% true. 100%
something I worry a lot about the West, and I hope that we can open our eyes soon and make it okay. I'm okay if a woman like genuinely feels a drive to work and they want to do it, like go ahead. But I know there's a lot of women out there who'd be like, for example, my dad's sister, she is a housewife, but she's really, really happy in the process, and she doesn't feel any like guilt or shame around it as you would in the West if she did the same thing. But like, she makes food all day. Like, she makes such a variety of food items. She enjoys doing it. She enjoys cleaning the house. And then when we were there with them, we were like hiking and stuff, we were visiting places, and she seemed really happy in what she did. And my uncle-in-law, he goes and he worked. I think he builds buildings and stuff for the Navy or something like that. Like, he does like laborers work, but he also enjoys that. And it's a much cheaper lifestyle in the village too, but you don't even need much money to get access to most of the things that you need. Yeah. And I just felt that energy. It's hard to describe it in words, but there's such a clear difference in energy between a household in the West and a household in the East.
Big time. Yeah, I mean, if I had to put myself in like a scenario in terms of like what I think is ideal for like the family I want to have in the future, I would love it for my wife to have a drive to like pursue like ambitious career goals, right? Like, obviously I want her to be educated. I want her to have like a drive like that. But at the same time, like if we were to get in a serious relationship to the point where like we're ready to have kids, I would like her to take time off, especially in the beginning, to ensure that like someone's there watching the kids and making sure like that we're raising them correctly. But at the same time, for me to want that, I have to be in a position where I can financially be accountable for them, right, and be able to take care of things while she's on her break. And then maybe as the kid gets older and a little more mature, right, maybe towards like the adolescent going to the teenage years, then we can maybe the work that she was doing before, she can resume it. But realistically, at the end of the day, family comes first, right? And when you're parents, it goes from, maybe your immediate family from when you were born in, the one that you were raised up with and the one you were born into, shifts to then your immediate family being your wife or your husband, and then the kids that you guys have, that being your immediate family. And you have to make sure that comes first at the end of the day. And if that comes first, that means you have to put aside certain personal ambitions and goals to ensure that your kids are going to be okay and they're going to be, they're going to be respectful when they get older.
Yeah, it's a episode I did, number 39, was with the owner of the elementary middle school I went to. She's also a woman, and in that episode we talked about a similar thing where when she had her family, she told herself that sure, she has these passions in career, but her family always came first to her, and she was able to take that time off to make sure the child was raised, and then she went back to it, and she also found a lot of success in doing what she enjoyed doing. But I also think a critical thing is that if you are ambitious about a career and ambitious about work, if I'm talking about my wife, I'm very, very happy if she's ambitious about something she wants to pursue.
Oh my God.
She wants to pursue.
Oh my God.
She wants to pursue.
Oh my God.
What is that?
Holy shit, that shit fucking hurt, dude.
That was I think a fruit seed or something.
Yo, you gotta, when you go back, you gotta rewind it. You gotta rewind it. That shit just
you gotta remind me. Is this a nut? What is this shit?
Dude, it hit me like right in the back.
I saw that, bro. I thought it was a leaf, and I was like, wait, what just happened? Yeah, I'm happy if my wife, my future wife, wants to pursue something, but I want to make sure that the reason behind her pursuing it is because she finds a genuine interest in what she's doing. Yeah. Right? Because I think if I give my mom as an example, she doesn't really enjoy what she's doing. So I don't want that as a scenario. Like, you feel an obligation to work when you don't enjoy it in the first place. That I want to avoid that. But if I know that for example for her, she's working as a data analyst, but she's really, really interested in business, right? So if my wife, for example, she finds an interest in this thing, whether it could be something as like money producing as business, or it could also just be dancing. Like, I don't know what the fuck it could be, but I think having something you're passionate about and pursuing is important in life. But I want to make sure you're happy in the process of doing that. And it's really hard in the West because there's a lot of eyes on you in a way. Like, there's a lot of like internal like feeling obligation because that's the way you're raised, I think, in a way. And I think school system education plays a lot into like your beliefs as a person. Like, what is your duty in life? Like, what are you required to do? But, yeah, man.
It's crazy. And back to what you were saying about like most family dynamics in the West, being so that like both the husband and wife are working, right? Like if we think about it in terms of if you have kids and you're also working, if your both parents are working, like as a species, like we're not designed to multitask. Like we're not very good at multitask. When you multitask, you're gonna be less effective and productive in whatever task that you're pursuing. And the more and more tasks you have, the less that efficiency and productivity rate goes down. So back to what we were saying about like, oh, like we can like it's kind of sad that we're shifting away from that, that traditional family dynamic. The reason why that was so like successful for so many like decades and like centuries is because like people were able to focus on one task at a time. Like the father was like, okay, it's time to go to work. Time bring home bring financial stability to the family so I can take care of them. While the mother was like, okay, let me make sure the kids are ready to go to school, right? Let me make sure there's food on the table. Let me make sure that like the house is clean, right? So that my husband doesn't have to worry about coming back home from a long day at work.
Also, raising kids is a lot of work too.
Yeah,
and spending time with them.
Yeah,
keep going. Like
both roles are so equally important, and it gets like it's really sad that like women nowadays like they kind of see it as offensive if someone were to be like I kind of prefer someone like my wife being like someone that was wanting to stay home and like raise the kids and make sure that the house is okay. Like they take offense to that, but really they shouldn't be taking offense to that because it's that in itself is a lot of work too. And it's plain evident. It's evident to see like that's definitely a driving force in why the divorce rate is so high as it is right now and why it's been raising like the last couple of years, like to levels that we've never seen before. Like 75% divorce rate is insane.
I wonder what it actually is. Let me just
search it up real quick.
I don't have Wi-Fi. Yeah, you search it up.
Should I just be like in the United States?
Yeah, U.S. divorce rate. What we got?
Yeah, my connection's ass, and I still have Wi-Fi.
It's already coming up.
Yeah, it's just not coming up.
It's alright.
I'm pretty sure it's 75.
Sorry for wrong. Please correct this.
We'll put it right there. We'll put it right there after.
Yeah, I can't promise that. I'll try to remember.
Maybe. But yeah, it's kind of wild. I mean, the best you could do now is, take what you've learned from like the family like that you were born into and like you were raised and apply, the same sort of
what went right, what went wrong.
Well, yeah, exactly. What went right, what went wrong, and then add a little bit of your own things into it to mix it up. And just, as a parent, like, you're always learning, especially with the first child, like, you're always learning along the way, right? So you know what works and what goes wrong, and then that's why usually the second child, like, a lot of things go better with the second child, because it was like trial and error with the first one, right? So, because, like, I was the second child, like, my sister is older, she's like 5 years older than me, and my parents definitely did a lot of things with me that were better than they were with her, right? In terms of, like they were really adamant about like my, like me being able to focus in school and like get on top.
I wonder how that makes you feel though, because for me I was a first child and I'm kind of grateful I was, because I felt that I had more freedom and flexibility to do what I felt was correct and just experiment on my own. But now that I kind of went and took that path and what worked for me, they're kind of reapplying it to my sister, and I think it constrains her a little bit more. So I wonder if you felt the same way, because I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all for everything. And I'm kind of grateful I had that ability to learn and adjust. So how do you think it felt? Did it feel constraining as a second child, or were you okay? Didn't care.
There's definitely a lot of similarities and differences between like my sister and I. One being like we're both athletes, so being an athlete like all your life, you definitely have some sort of traits that are like installed.
You might talk a little bit louder just in case.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, so like as an athlete, like you have like certain traits installed and like morals and values installed into you like from a young age since you've been playing sports all your life. So we definitely share like a lot of the same like characteristics, especially in terms of drive. But like again, like we're two separate people, right? So I think like when it comes to like raising your second child, whatever you did with your first child, what went right is just gonna be used as a template for the second child. But like based off the differences that you have between the two, you're gonna be able to again like change and adapt, right? So, like, there were some things that we did that were similar, like, that they did with me that were similar to what they did with my sister. One being that I was in Kumon for, like, a couple years. I don't know if you heard of Kumon, but
it's big in the Indian community.
I hated that. Like, I hated Kumon. I could not stand Kumon.
Why'd you hate it? I mean, I never did it, so.
Bro, it's just, like, imagine having homework and then having more homework. Like, that's all I had to say. Like, if you're a little kid watching this, like, imagine having homework and then you have to do additional homework for something you don't even want to do, right? So it was more of just like installing like discipline in me. But they did the same thing with my sister, except it wasn't called Kumon. It was called like C2 education, and it was kind of like, I don't even know what it was. It was like some weird shit like that. But like my sister, I guess like it was good for her because she needs to be on a set schedule in order for her to be productive. If not, she kind of just like runs amok, and she just kind of just like goes through the flow of emotions. Whereas me, like, yeah, like at the time when I was young, I probably could use a schedule in place to keep me on track. But like now, obviously, like I don't need to be on a set schedule to like be productive. I could like find time to hang out with my friends, and then like while I'm with my friends, I could be doing some work too. Like I'm okay like being in that kind of setting, right? So, but yeah, just like little things like that you can change up when you're having the second kid. But yeah,
I want to go back to what we were talking about before, because a question raised in my mind. I think we both have a state of clarity in what we want in our future life. But I think that the topic changes a little bit when we're talking about a relative, like a sister or a family member, and like what do we suggest as them is the best path forward? Because, for example, I think the hardest thing with taking the path of being more of a traditional life, you could find a lot of happiness there if you have a great husband who complements that. But I think the lack of financial security can become a problem if you get in the wrong household. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you don't have much of the power and the freedom that the financial security opens. But then again, you never had the opportunity of the perfect household if you never were open to maybe being more in a traditional dynamic in the first place. So it's like I've always struggled in terms of what do I suggest for my own relatives, like my younger sister. And I guess I can share what I think right now, but you can share some thoughts if you have any. I think a college education is great. You can always have that. I just pray that she doesn't get caught up in the mix of do what's popular and trending. Just try to find a subject area where she's genuinely interested. Because I think definitely in our communities, like computer science and all this shit, like do that shit. Or that's like the big three. And obviously the people that enjoy that. But I think we're kind of compelled that just take this path and take that career because it makes a lot of money. I would say that I would always advocate for her to take, if she were to choose to work a career at some point, try to find some joy in the career. Like try to find something you enjoy, but if you end up finding a great husband and a great household and you're comfortable taking a step back from heavy work and maybe like spending your time doing other things that you're genuinely passionate about. Like my sister, she loves to play the guitar, she loves to play tennis, she used to do a lot more drawing and stuff. I think she still does. But there's all these like different things, that hobbies that she likes as a person, and if she could find a life where she's able to pursue genuine interest while doing her other roles, like that I think was the ideal. But maybe still take the path a little bit, because it can end up being really bad if you end up in the wrong household. So what do you think about that?
I 100% agree with that. I mean, I feel like it ties back to just, I just feel like having expectations about like anything in life, like having set expectations, like there's a difference between goals and expectations. I think having set expectations that are, regardless if they're negative or positive, it's just not going to do you well in the future, because it just puts like unnecessary stress in the back of your mind about like, okay, I need to do this in order to be successful. I need to do this to make money. I need to do this to like, have a solid career. Like you need to understand that part of life is sometimes like going through it, like not knowing what's going to happen, right? You're just like, just going with the state of mind, like, hey, whatever happens. Like I consider myself a good person. I'm going to do good by who's around me, and I'm going to work hard. And if you have that mindset and you have like that state of mind, then like good things are gonna happen to you. Like good things are gonna happen. Like you're gonna, like, things are gonna go your way. Don't get me wrong, there's gonna be bumps along like the journey, but like if you're a good person and you do right by people and you work hard, then things are just gonna arrive. And eventually through the journey you'll find out like what works, what doesn't, what interests you, what doesn't, and you're like, okay, like I really like that. I thought I was gonna be into this, but I'm really like, I don't know, I have a feeling about this. And you start pursuing it a little more, and you're like, okay, this is actually what I want my career to be. Like this is who I actually want to be with, and this is like what kind of characteristics they have. You know what I mean? So, and the expectations, it all comes from just like our misperception that stems from like social media. You're seeing where people are at the age of 23 and 24, and like all the money they have.
Bro, there's like 10 of those people.
Yeah.
In reality.
Like. Yeah, like and like realistically, like, there's not many people like that. You're just seeing them because they just got on the algorithm and they have thousands of likes on their video, and now you're seeing like where you could be in like 5-6 years. But you have to understand, like that's not you right now. Like you're on square one, buddy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's like manufactured dopamine. Like you're getting a little rush from just like seeing like success, and like we're obviously as a species, we're like stimulated by like shiny objects and like money, and
it's
like
genetic. Bro.
It's just a genetic thing. Like it is what it is. But that's what I'm saying. Sometimes it's good to like really, like, I don't know, I've had like most social media deleted for months now, and I feel like it's done me like wonders in terms of trying to just like focusing on myself and focusing on like actually like my priorities, right, and not getting like caught up like in anything else I would see like online.
Yeah, man, it's such a distraction. I don't think people think it's a distraction when they think about, okay, I spend 2 hours a day scrolling Instagram, so it's just 2 hours of distraction. But it's not really that, right? If we break down like what is actually happening in our brain, I find this really interesting. We luckily had these evolutionary things hardwired into us, tools, advantages inside of us, where we're constantly as humans really care about social dynamics a lot.
Yeah.
Right? 100,000, 50,000 years ago when we're in tribes, we're constantly worrying about like this monkey here and that monkey there. I mean, we're obviously humans at this point, but like we're thinking about the different people around us and their interactions with each other and what they say, and we're constantly thinking about like how they said that word or why they said it like this, because if we can figure out that one person's being a little bit sketchy, then we want to leave them behind because they can cause the death of our whole tribe, right? It's in a society where thousands of years ago, where you don't have much access to food, you're hunting and gathering food every single day, there's higher chance of plague and poison ivy and everything around you that can kill you. You got to be really vigilant and very aware of social dynamics more than any other species, because humans are one of the most social animals, because that is our definition of success. If you take some of the most powerful animals like lions and tigers and put a lion and a just normal human there, the human's probably going to die. Yeah. But then why do humans take over the world? Because our ability to socialize and collaborate really high. So we luckily have these networks in our brain that are constantly thinking about social dynamics. Even in the background, our subconscious mind, like we walk into a classroom, we're paying attention to like the facial expressions on people's faces and the way they act and the way they move, and we're making conclusions about them before even
subconsciously. Like
it's
not
insane.
Even,
it's insane that we're able to do that.
Yeah.
And some people, I think girls are a lot better at that than guys. From research, they've shown that, because since guys are so like strong and powerful, girls have to evolve like other ways to find power as well. So they really got, I think they can pay attention to social dynamics in a way that
have a high EQ.
High EQ. That's a good
high
way to put it.
EQ, yeah.
And because of that, girls are a lot more susceptible to being addicted to Instagram and Snapchat.
Yeah.
Because imagine like taking those things that are hardwired in your brain, paying attention to, okay, this is how social dynamics work. Instagram knows that really well. They have the research. They have the people funding them, right? They design everything in the app in a way to make you constantly obsess with social dynamics, strength and friendships. What other people are doing? What are they up to? Are these people like talking? Are these people like, are that enemy? It puts it on steroids.
And where you stand amongst them.
I think when you quit Snapchat, you start to look at the features of Snapchat and wonder like, wait, what's the benefit or reason behind that? Like, let's think of like, okay, streaks.
Yeah.
What do you actually get out of a streak?
I mean, just seeing their face and
seeing their fucking number.
Yeah.
That's it. But then, how can we keep sending snaps to each other? Like, what is compelling us that, oh wait, I haven't sent a snap, I have 1 hour left. Like, what is that compulsion? Where does that come from? Okay,
this is the only time where I butt in, because Snapchat's the only thing I recently downloaded, only because nowadays I feel like you kind of have to give into that, because like, what are you going to be like, especially if you want to meet up with a girl, like talk some shit, you're like, oh yeah, can I get your contact? Like, you know what I mean? It's a little too much.
No one's giving me the number, bro.
But like, don't get me wrong, bro. Like, I'm maybe talking to two people right now. Like, but like, I'm not the type of guy where like I gotta send a streak here. I gotta send like a picture here. Like,
I'll also say that I'm probably gonna re-download it next month because I'll be going to Michigan. I'm like, bro, have fun.
Yeah. I think like anything like Instagram or TikTok though is extremely detrimental.
Those are worse. We can get into that as well.
The scrolling is just it's ridiculous. There's a reason why there's a scrolling algorithm on every single app.
Every single app.
Even on YouTube, they put it on YouTube Shorts
on Google.
Now.
It's on Google app.
Yeah.
The Google app. Amazon.
Yeah.
Like, bro. Anyways, I think the biggest thing you can do is periodization. Like, I'll probably download it if I fall term. I might delete it again and write down. Like, as long as they're healthy about it.
Yeah, along the way.
And we can still talk about how shitty it is while using it. So, I still want to get into that point though, because it's really interesting. Even if I'll download it again, like, it's an interesting point that there's no value of a streak, but we keep doing it because it hijacked one of the circuits in our brain that's obsessed with proving to us that we have strong relationships with another person. That's the only thing it hijacked. Right? Fucking Snapmap. Like, I see so many girls, bro. Even my sister, bro. Like, zooming in and out of Snapchat, like, seeing where everyone at, who's with each other. Like, it's so fucking obsessive, bro. But
dude, it's crazy how, like, just, like, these tech companies, bro, like, they really knew, they understand how the human mind works, and they just manipulate it, like, and, I mean, there's a reason why there's, like, they have all, like, tremendous amounts of equity, like, and they're insanely, like, wealthy. It's insane, bro. Like, it's really insane.
it's hard to think that, it's hard to say it like this, but the companies low-key have blood on their hands too.
Oh, big time.
And I hate saying it like that, but when I really start thinking about it, it's fucking hard, man. Even the food companies, bro. Food is
it's another subject.
Whole nother story, bro.
I don't really know too much, but like I know my boy, like he really put me on to some, like he was like, yeah, bro, like a lot of the food we be eating is just horrible for you, like so.
Even the pharma industry.
Yeah. Like,
I can tell you some stories, bro. I just finished reading this book month ago, a few weeks ago, called Ultra Processed People, which it's such an eye opener. I think everyone in the world has to read that book.
What's it called?
Write it down. Yeah, Ultra Processed People. It's really an underground book. Not many people know about this book, but it's a fucking eye opener.
Ultra Processed People.
Yeah, I have a copy if you want to borrow it.
Yeah, that'd be tough, bro.
If you're into reading and stuff.
That's one thing I'm happy I got back into. Real quick before we go back into like that subject, like, bro, like before like this previous spring semester at Miami, I was like, I never read like the last book I read was like Big Nate back in like 8th grade, bro. I was like, oh, like, bro, like I used to play basketball and shit, like just playing video games. Like I was like, read, bro. Like why am I gonna sit and read? But like now I realize like, bro, reading is just so important because like it's not even about like the process of information and learning something new. But it's also just like taking time to just like let your brain relax, like let your mind calm down and just like enter a calm state. You know what I mean?
And another point on that, your brain is more at calm reading than watching TV. And I say that because I would have never believed that statement 2 years ago. Because if I compare the feeling of reading to the feeling of watching TV is so much more relaxing. And like if I'm taking a break from work or something, I'll be like, I'm gonna watch TV because it's so relaxing and peaceful. Which is like reading is like hard work. But surprisingly, the reason why like watching TV or something might be more, there's so much more sensory information coming in that your brain has to process. But the companies also like put these, it's designed in a way to also make you feel like you're relaxed. But if I were to take a brain scan of your brain when you're like watching Netflix or playing a video game, your brain's actually on hyperactive mode with all the sensory information coming in. When you're reading, you're sure it's more work at first, but when your brain is is focused on the present moment. Yeah. And it's just focused on like one thing, it's actually at a lot more peace in terms of your health and relaxation.
And also like when you're watching TV or like watch something on your phone for like an extended period of time, once you get off that and you try to like do a task, it takes you a little bit of time to get into like that state where like, okay, I can actually like focus and get some work done. Like you can't do that right away. You can't just go from like something so sensory like that to then like doing something that's actually going to require you to kind of lock in and like really focus, right? So I just feel like definitely, yeah, I can 100% like see where like we're reading might at first be like, okay, like I have to like really like, bro, I have to like look at every line and just like read it from side to side, or it might seem like a little bit more work, but like at the end of the day, if you really think about it, like you're 100% correct with reading definitely being a lot less, a lot more calm than just watching something like TV or Netflix. Or like that.
And I think something I was thinking about with TV recently, we'll get to the food. I want to get to the food. We'll get to it. The thing with watching TV and you said. I don't remember what you just said. That was interesting.
Was it,
what did you just say?
Forgot. We just ate, like, so much food.
Oh, yeah, there we go. There you go. I got it.
Food?
That helped me remember. Okay, so when you're watching TV, the reason why it's so hard to start the next task, sure, there's 100 reasons why we might be thinking right now that obviously you're in this hyperactive state and it's like hard to task switch, but I think something that most people don't think about happens when you're watching TV is that in the same way as social media presents you this perfect lifestyle of this 23-year-old who made $1 million, the TV, it's not really a realistic storyline. It's often an extremely exaggerated storyline.
Oh yeah.
That's completely unlike real life, but it makes you feel like that is normal life. That's how life should be, and my life in comparison that is mediocre. Like, this guy is going on adventures in the fucking Eiffel Tower, and he's, like, fucking some girl. Like, I don't know what the fuck happens in, like, some of these TV shows, but...
Yeah.
There's, like, this romance love stories, and, like, all this shit's happening, and this, like, action movie. This guy's, like, Tom Cruise, like, jumping off a mountain again on a motorcycle. I think in one of his recent movies, my dad was telling me there's a sick scene where, like, he drove a motorcycle off a cliff and then jumped on a train, and he actually did it in real life. Like, it wasn't even, like, CGI or anything. But it's pretty cool. But it makes you feel like your life is more, you feel more dissatisfied with your own life. And when you feel like your life is not great, like when you feel like there's someone else who's living this epic life and I'm living this shitty life, you lose the incentive to do the everyday things. You're like, okay, I have to do this like, math problem. Like, what's the point of doing this math problem? Like, my life is so shitty. Like, you feel like there's less drive, and I'm so happy that was one of the easier things for me to quit. That I think my sophomore summer, going into my sophomore year, I was really big into like watching TV and Netflix and stuff, more of as a compulsion. I wasn't really appreciating the art of the shows. I just keep kind of watching as an escape. But when I went to my sophomore year, boarding for the first time, I had this amazing lifestyle, and I ended up quitting all that shit. Like, I stopped watching TV and everything, and I felt that like my life became the movie. As cringe as that sounds, like
it's true.
It's for so long I let someone else live my life for me. And now when you stop watching people live their life and you go out and do shit yourself, like I started playing all these sports and I started meeting all these people and I started doing all this epic shit. You can make your own life the movie. You don't need all this shit no more because your life is epic enough.
100% agree with that, dude. 100%. It's really crazy, bro. Like, we really take for granted like who we are and like what we have. Like, you know what I mean? Like, bro, like, especially nowadays, like there's so much at our fingertips that like we can, like, if you were just like focus like on like what's actually going on in front of you, then you're like, wow, like this is actually amazing, bro. Like yeah, like, I might not have like an insane amount of money right now, but like the fact that like I can go on a plane and go to an entirely different part of the world and like experience a culture and like a group of people that are completely different than the ones I've known like all my life, and then I can go back to them and like share like what I learned from this part of the world and from these people, and like just experiences like that. It's really impeccable, and we really take for granted nowadays like what we have and who we are.
Amazing. Let's talk about food.
Yeah, let's get into it,
dude. I think the way he wrote the book, I can't match that in this podcast, because some of these things like people already know, but the way he wrote it, the way he gives specific examples of what these companies are actually doing, it's so much more eye-opening. But pretty much, and if you take a normal person's diet, 90% of it is food that's going to end up killing them. Like, that's going to end up giving them diseases. And I think one of the biggest myths we have is that we're the healthiest society there's ever been because we're living to such a young age, right? I think that's one of the biggest myths that the pharma industry and the food industry live off of. Like, okay, sure, this food's bad and these we're overprescribing antibiotics and stuff, but look at our lifespan. Before, in like the 1900s, 1800s, it was nice if you lived past 40, and now it's normal to live past 80, right? Yeah. So the conclusion is that because of the pharma industry, because of the food industry, because we have so much food available now, because we have so much medicine available now, our society is healthier,
quote unquote.
It's wrong. Tell me why.
I mean,
it's actually kind of hard. I don't think I get it, but I'll tell you.
I'll not be able to answer that one.
It's I wouldn't have, until my dad told me the story, I wouldn't have known this either. But with the pharma industry, he told me the story. But the number one cause of death in the 1900s, 1800s, 1700s that caused people to live to die earlier was infection.
Yeah.
Malaria, AIDS, all that shit. All those diseases like Ebola, all those diseases, all those infections were the reason of most diseases.
So lack of advances in medicine.
So it's not like everyone was dying up to 40. Some people got to 45. Like, it was normal for some people to go up to 80 back in the day.
Yeah.
But most people died at 40. So it was a weird thing, right? Because now most people die in the same like age bracket, but the standard deviation of it was a lot greater, right? Whereas like most people are around the median of like dying between 40 and 50, but then there's a few outsiders who actually get to 80, 90. Like, it's not the true anymore, right? It's not like most people die between 70 and 80, but then some people live to 150. That's not true, right? Most people at the time died between 40 and 50, but there was a small handful of people that lived to 80 back then too. But the reason the average was pulled so low was because of infection. Malaria and this shit and that shit, right? And I'm grateful that the pharma industry has cured all those infections. But that's the only reason the lifespan has gone up. In terms of everything else, it's actually been making us worse off. So I'll give you a list of some of them, right? I think one of the biggest problems today is like these antibiotic medicines and all that are severely overprescribed. And even like SSRIs and all depression medicine is severely overprescribed. That I've heard many stories of people who have certain conditions and everything, and doctors are really fast at prescribing you medicine because obviously they want to make money. That's the only problem with the capitalistic culture. I love the capitalism. It's made our economy soar and a lot more opportunity for us all, but at the same time, everyone has an incentive to sell as much as possible. So what these companies actually do is they'll they will overprescribe antibiotics, overprescribe all these SSRIs and all these medicines. And taking antibiotics as an example, like what is the antibiotic actually doing? It's killing bacteria in your body, right?
Yeah.
So it fucks up your gut because your gut is filled with good bacteria that actually helps you a lot with bodily function. And if you take too many antibiotics, your gut will get fucked up because all your good bacteria will die. And I've heard even like MMA fighters and stuff. There's one I was thinking of in particular, but I don't remember his name. He had some severe injuries and he was prescribed antibiotics for almost a year. And after he came out of that, he fucked up his entire gut. And he can't even train without feeling nauseous as fuck. Like he'll start throwing up even if he tries training. Like he's getting sick all the time, and you can't really recover that anymore. You can take probiotics and stuff, but when you fuck up your gut, you can't like really clear that. And then the food. Also, one more thing with the pharma industry is that they will never sell you a cure to a disease. They will always keep you maintained at a certain spot. And I'll give you an example, right? Unfortunately, my grandma has diabetes, and if you look into the diabetes, the cure for diabetes, there's no one who will give you a pill or a medicine that will cure your diabetes. Because what happens when you get cured of diabetes? You stop coming to get your medication.
You don't need to pay anymore.
So they maintain you at a state where you're just on the edge where you still have diabetes, so you need to keep taking medicine, but they won't give you so much where you're cured, right? So they give you like these patches and stuff you put on your skin, and you're a customer for life. For the rest of your life, you're on medication. So you're on this medication, and you'll never be cured of your disease, and you're forced to live with it for the rest of your life. With diabetes, there's other medicines as well. I'm not as well versed in the pharma industry, so I'm speaking off memory. But
do these medicines though that you're talking about, do they actually have cures though? Like, does diabetes?
That's a good question, and I don't personally know. But I will say that even if they do have cures, there's no incentive for anyone to find them.
Yeah.
Because low key, like the researchers are being funded by these companies. Because honestly, the only problem with academia and science is that they don't get much money. They're working off government grants, and a lot of times companies fund the researchers. So if the pharma industry is giving the money to the researchers are working for the pharma industry. They're not gonna tell them to like go find a cure for diabetes. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna tell them like you're gonna find a conclusion in the study that we want you to
100%. There's been scientists out there that have definitely been like, no, I'm not gonna lie. There's actually a cure, and like this is how we go about it.
And then they get silenced.
Then they're like, calm down.
And they don't get money. And it's such a big problem because that's the entire problem with the food industry. These companies like Nestle, Coca-Cola, for example, spend so much money funding researchers that provide researchers saying that this chemical is not bad for you, this chemical is not bad for you. And majority of the foods we eat, protein bars, frozen chicken, like ready-to-eat meals, they're filled with chemicals that our body does not know how to digest. Filled to the brim. I'll pull up like any like snack you have in your house, like the ketchup or whatever. Look at the ingredient list. I guarantee there's at least one ingredient there that you've never heard of before, like a chemical. And as a child, we kind of just accept that someone over there is regulating it, is making sure it's okay. And the researchers say that, oh yeah, we're just taking like one like parts of a billion of it. It's not going to kill you, right? But the problem with the research is that all of it shows immediate effect. That if you take it once and there's no immediate result. But the reason these diseases are bad for you is because
yeah, cause you just keep eating it. You just keep going, right?
It takes 10 to 20 years for. I thought when you're saying this, you're saying speed up. Like,
no.
Like, bro.
I was saying like, nah. If you keep eating it,
you keep eating it. It takes 10, 20 years for it to really see the effects.
Yeah.
And people said, okay, wait, I have something to think like, oh, there's no effect happening. But if you look at the stats of America, the number of like people, if I walk on the streets and like, even in New Jersey, but especially down south in Virginia and stuff, if you walk on the streets, it's insane how many obese people there are. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's not healthy at all. There's so many obese people. You know, they're 50 and 60. And another thing the food industry has done is they've actually. It's hard for. I don't think anyone's gonna believe me if I say this myself, like right now, but they've actually fooled us to think that the cure to obesity is to eat less and to lift more. But I was shocked to read that a lot of that is also propaganda funded by the food industry to hide from the fact that actually the chemicals that we're ingesting on a daily basis are contributing to the obesity and diabetes we get down the road that are almost incurable by exercise.
Yeah. That's
insane, man.
Just taking advantage of our well-being just so to gain personal benefits. It's wealth. It's wild. I mean, that's just life now as a whole, bro. Like the corporate world, like the larger corporations are just about to like take advantage in any way they can just to get personal gain. And food industry is no different, obviously, like as you just stated.
Another thing, I think the biggest problem is awareness, because you probably never heard of like some of these things before, right? Most people don't know, but going back to what we talked about before with the family dynamic, it can kind of be a trickling-down effect, where if the father and mother are both working, and there's no one to cook at home, where does the food come from?
Yeah.
Ready-to-eat meals. 80% of Americans eat ready-to-eat meals.
It's wild,
It's
bro.
killing themselves.
It's really like we're poisoning ourselves like every day in so many different ways,
And it makes you scared. And the thing with like PFAS chemicals and stuff, I don't know if you've heard, the chemicals that cause cancer, they're in Lysol sprays.
Yeah.
They're in Band-Aids. Non-stick pans.
It's like that whole Teflon.
Not even Teflon. There's all this Teflon-free bullshit. There's still fucking other chemicals in there. PFAS. That's still, even if you get Teflon-free, it's still.
So bullshit. Like, what can you do? Like, if you're someone like our age nowadays, like, who's on a minimum, like, a minimal budget, but like is somewhat aware of like their own personal health and knows, okay, like I need to like actually watch like what I'm putting in my body and like what I'm using to make my food. Like, what can we do? Like, what can we buy? What would you
I would
suggest?
say go live in a village in India.
Move to India. Just go.
Or anywhere. Any third world. Anyway, jokes aside, it's very easy if you made it make I could make a list of 100 things you can do. Right? I could say stop buying anything wrapped in plastic. Because plastic has these chemicals called phthalates that jump in our food that reduce our fertility and testosterone. I could say stop touching any plastic.
Yeah.
I could say get rid of your Teflon pan. I could say stop buying polyester underwears because it's fucking making your dick smaller.
Yeah.
I could say stop scrolling on social media. I could say delete TikTok. I could say stop eating anything with more than 4 ingredients from the store. It's just like so hard, right? But I think that unfortunately, while it's good to talk about these things, I feel like it makes you kind of stressed out.
Yeah.
In a way, it's like, wait, I have to do all these things. You get kind of anxious. You're like, oh, we have to stop eating this thing. I have to stop eating that thing. And in the society we live in today, it's kind of impossible to just quit everything.
It's too much, and we're just like surrounded by all of it. It's almost just like you just have to regulate it. You just have to regulate how much like what you're doing and what you're putting in your body. But you're not gonna be able to like it's almost like a disease that there's no cure for, right? Like you could treat it, right? Like we can treat it by watching what we eat, getting in exercise, cutting out sugar from our diets. But at the end of the day, like the microplastics, like we're gonna eventually drink like water from a fucking bottle. You know what I mean? Like it's bound to happen. We're gonna open occasionally something from like a plastic wrap, right? But it's all about just like regulation, I guess, right?
I would give 2 tips to someone. The first tip is to just increase your awareness of it. That I think, even if you don't take a single action step, but you just watch a podcast where we talk about it consistently, that in itself is good for you. Because you'll be surprised, like you'll just be at the supermarket, and there'll be like one piece of chicken wrapped in plastic and one wrapped in paper, and you just remember that one thing I talked about plastic, and just buy the paper one, right?
Yeah.
I think awareness about it, even if you're not perfect, even if you're extremely imperfect and you're eating shit food, at least to know in the back of your mind that when you have an opportunity to make a better decision, you lean toward a better decision. So
that's worse though, I feel like, because if you're like still eating shitty fucking food and you have the option to like eat something better and you're still doing that, then you're just living in denial. Like same thing with the phone, bro. Like you still have social media and like, okay, respectfully, like I know this is killing my attention span, but like I'm still gonna be looking at like these reels for the next 30 minutes. Like you're just living in denial, and that's the problem with like a lot of our generation. I mean, we'll get back to the food in a second, but like we just love to just like do what's easy, and we'll live in denial if it means that we can be comfortable. And it's a problem, bro. Like comfortability. Like, in order for success, there needs to be some sort of suffering.
Yeah.
Needed. Like there needs to be hard work. There needs to be grit. Like in order for you to get to where you want to be. It's not going to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go through the flow and like do what I want. Like no, that's not how it works, bro. You have to do what you don't want to do in order to get what you want. Because that's just how life works.
I want to explore that, but I also want to bring up my second suggestion to people real quick. I think I can't tell you the best thing to do because everyone's life situation is different.
Yeah.
But I will say that in the back of your mind what you need to do. I would say look at your life right now and figure out. You have to tell yourself honestly. Get a piece of paper, write down like the worst habit I do is X, Everyone knows what it is. I know what it is. You know what it is. Like, we all know what our worst habit is, what we need to fix. And just start with fixing that one thing. If you're literally sedentary, then for you it's just going on a fucking walk. You know what I mean? Like, I know it's hard at first to think like we're young, we're healthy and everything, but I've met people who are literally sedentary. And I don't want to. I love my grandma a lot, but my other grandma, like not the one that works at 4 in the morning. Other side of my grandma, I love her a lot. She's a great person, but she doesn't understand the meaning of health, and she's very sedentary. Like, she'll probably walk from one side of the room to the other side of the room the whole day without even leaving the room. Right? Really? So it's no exercise. Like, walking a little bit, it's like strenuous. Walk down the stairs, strenuous. So if you're literally that down bad, then just start going on a walk every day. And plus, sure, you'll get the physical benefits of exercise. You'll get the mental benefits of like looking at nature, but you'll also just get the benefit of that. I said I want to do something and I did it, and you kind of increase your self-image that way. And then if you do that for a month or two, you can pick up the next thing, right? Yeah. One step at a time, right? If your thing is exercise, you need to start going to the gym. Start going to the gym. If you're a pretty healthy guy like me and you, like you're in college and stuff, like you've done some good shit here and there, and you know you use Instagram too much, maybe tell yourself like, you know what, 2 months no Instagram, right? Yeah. Just choose that one thing for yourself that you can do, because you're living in a world where it's easy to get stressed about it, and I don't think overthinking anything is a good strategy for it. But just take it one step at a time. Just choose the one thing that's most meaningful to you, that's most passionate about. Do that one thing, and just keep making good decisions, right? If you do everything at once, even if you can maintain it for 3 days,
it's too overwhelming.
It's all gonna fall apart.
Yeah.
Right. So that's my
it's like it's just like kind of, I forgot, there's like a word for that. What's the word for like when you do something and you actually do it, like you actually complete it, and it kind of gives you just that like clarity that like, okay, like I'm actually like able to like put my mind to it, and it kind of gives you like a little bit of a dopamine effect, like a little dopamine.
What was that word?
I think
I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about, though, right? It's like
positive reinforcement.
Positive reinforcement. Yeah. When you say you're gonna do something, you actually set your mind to it and you do it. Like something that simple as just like, I want to lift, right? Like I want to eat, 3 vegetables a day. Like something simple like that. Then like that can lead to you eventually being able to apply that to a lot more serious and long-term goals. Like I want to like start my own private equity company someday. Like I want to run my own business one day. Like once you do like the little things and you gradually work your way up like to harder and harder goals, then eventually like that goal, if you wanted to start your own company, isn't so far-fetched, right? And it's because like you have such a healthy mind in place, and what you've done before was all like positive reinforcement, and it leads you somewhere where like, you know what, this is how I'm gonna do it, right? Like if I have my goal, I have to work backwards. This is what I need to do in order to get there, and this is what I have to do on a daily basis in order for me to reach that spot. Okay, let's get to it. And then you kind of apply everything what you've done before, right? And you apply it to where now the tasks that you have to do in order to reach that goal. And then eventually you'll reach it with time. You know what I mean? It's just staying consistent and disciplined. That's all it is.
And show the camera.
Yeah. Thank God. This coffee is getting me right.
Oh yeah. Got work to do, no?
Huh?
Got work to do? After this?
Yeah, I gotta go to Petco to get some dog food.
Oh, yeah.
But when I get back, yeah, I'm in this program called like SEO.
SEO.
And it's just like it's basically like a bridge between like undergraduate.
It's not related to like website SEO?
No.
Okay.
It's like a program that's like serves as a bridge between like these larger banks and like corporate firms, and like minority undergraduates that are like business or finance majors.
Oh, I see.
And essentially like they give you like resources and like connections that you can use to kind of help like build yourself up and like build a solid resume so that you can have a higher likelihood of getting into like these like internships for these banks.
Nice.
So it's pretty cool, but there's so much shit. Like my boy's in it. He's been in it for some time, and he knows a lot more than I do. So there's definitely some catching up I got to do.
Amazing. I want to get back to the point you made about dissatisfaction. Dissatisfaction. You said that before you get anything good in life, you must endure the suffering first.
Oh,
you must do the hard part
100%.
first, right?
I think we talked about this in the last podcast.
Did we?
Yeah.
I think the problem with today's lifestyle is it's too comfortable. It's just way too comfortable. That shit. I remember I was sitting in my English class. I'm sorry, I'm graduated now, so I can say this. I hated that English class because it's like liberal as fuck. But I remember one topic that came up in the English class was that like the definition of a good life. I think like what is the goal of life, and this like kid raises his hand and says, "Oh, it's just to be as comfortable as possible." Just look at him. Like, the goal of life is to be as comfortable as possible.
You're an idiot.
But like, it's sad because it opens your eyes that a lot of people think that way.
Yeah.
And they actually believe it, and you can't really start getting mad at them because they're. If I was born in his family and raised in his shoes, like, I'd be the fucking same, right? So we should like really look at it with pity. I think that this is society, but I think when you have your needs met, you have a less of a drive to go and do shit. When I started cutting the bad habits out, I was more dissatisfied with what I lacked, and I started to want to overcome that distance that was between where I am now and where I want to be.
You started installing more of a sense of drive.
Yeah. I had more drive. I had more. I think if you play video games, I think it's the biggest it's the biggest thing that takes your drive away from things, because you have access to brotherhood and accomplishment and competition. Something that a lot of people crave. I think guys crave it a lot more. I think that's why 99% of people that are addicted to video games are guys, because we crave competition. We crave victory and beating people up and like achieving things, and brotherhood, and all these things are so valuable to us. And we're just sedated by this video game that if we're able to achieve competition, brotherhood, and everything through the video game, there's no drive to do in the real world, right? But the second you cut that shit out, you cut the Netflix out, you cut your phone use out, and you realize you feel the pain of boredom and you feel the pain of just being yourself, then you can start to work towards things you want, right? And obviously, I think people look at dissatisfaction as a bad thing, that you should just feel like happy and good all the time, but
yeah.
I think you and I can both agree that the best, most enlightening, like colorful moments of our life were times when like we were working towards something.
100%.
Like we're just working toward like achieving this thing or that thing. And I think that's what makes life beautiful.
And then like even when you get there, you're like, okay, I'm here now, right? And it feels great and all in the moment, and you're just like, where to go now? You know what I mean? Like, what do I do now? Like in terms of an example of this would be like when I won like the state championship with my team back my senior year, like first in the school's history in cross country. Like we beat Ridgewood, and like it was a big accomplishment. Like, we just beat them.
I think Ridgewood was the spot.
What, Ridgewood?
In the beginning of the podcast where I was talking about me and my friend.
Oh yeah.
I think it's Ridgewood.
It was Ridgewood?
Yeah. What did I say? Ridgefield?
I think you said Ridgefield. Yeah.
Fuck
Ridgewood. I don't like it all. But anyway, we beat them finally. They used to beat us like every single year, and we finally beat them to claim our first state chip. And when we won it, I was so ready to celebrate, right? Like, don't get me wrong. Like, we went out that night, got a couple drinks, and we had a great time, me and the guys. But after the next day, I kind of felt like, okay, what do I do now? You know what I mean? Like, because that was like the ultimate goal. And I felt that I realized, no funny shit, like, you can't really have, like, your purpose in life isn't supposed to be one set goal. It's essentially the whole journey into like getting to like a number of goals along the way. And the journey itself is so enriching, like, and a lot of people take for granted like what you're doing in the moment that's like leading up to whatever goal you want to accomplish. But like if you were to just sit back for a second after you were to, you know, let's say get a good lift in, or after you were to do like a 3-hour study session for a specific subject, you're like, chill, like, hold on, like, I just low-key learned so much, or like I low-key just grew something so much, like I just grew my bicep a little bit. And if I do that maybe a couple more months, I'm actually going to see like a pretty solid difference in the size of it, or I'm going to see like a solid difference in my understanding of a certain topic. You're like, that's like really cool, bro. Like the fact that we can like really just adapt and learn new things on the go like that, and that in itself is the goal. Like the fact that you're putting in the time and effort to better yourself in so many different areas. And if you think with that mindset where it's like, okay, I'm appreciating the journey the entire way, whatever you put like, that's why, like, I mean, it's a really cliche thing to say, but like whatever you put your mind to, you're gonna accomplish. Like if you have that mindset, like that, you know, like I'm gonna reach, like the journeys of what's most enriching, like you're gonna actually like accomplish anything you want to, because you're just so infatuated by what you're doing to get to that goal. You know what I mean?
You said it perfectly. I gotta take a piss. Let's take a pause. Be back. Back. Hello. We just talking about grandparents. Beautiful people.
Yeah. I mean, I was just discussing how, like, it's kind of hard to watch someone be, like, so rude to, like, an elderly person in general, and, like, let alone their grandparent. Like, I don't get that, like, respect. Like, I mean, unless, like, their grandparents are, like, very, like, stern and very, like, you know, cold and, I guess, somewhat rude to a degree, maybe I can get why they ignore them. But, like, in general, if your grandparent's nice to you and you're kind of giving them the cold shoulder, like, and you're, like, above the age of, like, 10 or, like, 11 or 12, like, come on, dude. Like, it's, like, kind of sickening to watch.
I mean, I think it's very, very rare to see someone that, if your grandparents are nice to you, it's very, very rare to be, like, mean to them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that's even possible. I mean, obviously...
You'd be surprised, dude.
You see people?
Like, I've seen people, like, be like... I don't know, I don't want to, like, put out names out there, but I have, like, some friends... Well, this one friend of mine, he was, like, Jewish. And I remember, like, back in, like, middle school going to, like, high school. So, like, he was, like, not even that young. Like, I went over and he was just, like... His grandma was saying something was made, right? Like, food-wise. And, like, we were, like, upstairs playing video games, like, in his attic. Which was like 2 floors up, and he was like screaming like, "Okay, like be quiet, I'm trying to like just like something like a little rude like that." Yeah. I was just like, bro, like,
I mean, for a video game or two. I mean.
Yeah, I was like, how are you gonna talk to your grandparents like that?
Yeah.
Bro?
I mean, even elderly. I mean, I think it's a lot more common to not like your parents. I mean, I've heard that narrative a lot. I mean, it's hard for me to when I hear people that like I fuck my mom, like shit like that. That feels like really extreme. That it's like I feel like that's even hard to say, like internally.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay if I think the one thing with parents is that a large majority of them do try to live vicariously through you, in a way. But I don't think that's common across all parents. And I'm really grateful for my own parents. I think they're great people, and I think I'm like lucky to have them as parents.
Yeah.
But I think something despite that, something I noticed is that they sometimes do try to constrain you in a way, which I think is natural in parenthood. Where they'll try to set you on this path, and obviously it comes from love, right? They saw it work for them in their life, but they try to constrain you and want to see you go down this certain path a lot. I think that's very common for parents. So I've talked to so many people that have talked about defying their parents and those narratives. But I mean, where do you see the balance draw between like respecting your parents and understanding that they're like also the controlling aspect of it? I mean, how is it played out in your own life?
I think obviously it's an age thing. It depends on like your personal development as you get older. I mean, I'm really like when I was younger, like don't get me wrong, there was definitely times I extremely disliked my mom because like she didn't allow me to do certain things, or like she didn't let me like play video games for like an extra couple hours, like really immature stuff. But like as I got older, I realized like, you know, like I'm not gonna lie, like I really love my parents. Like they're really like, great examples. I mean, like my mom and dad have their own like, you know, trade-offs, right, and like positive and negative things about them. But at the end of the day, like they really want the best for you, right? And as you get older, you kind of start to like kind of see through like some of the things, the little things they do that might have pissed you off in the past. You're like, they're just like, they really just want me to be good, right? Like they're just telling me something I don't want to do, but like just because it's something I don't want to do doesn't mean that it's not beneficial. Mm-hmm. So like an example of that was Kumon. Like I hated Kumon. Like when I was young, like I literally wrote an essay in middle school, like saying like I wanted to burn down the Kumon that I went to. Like that's how much dislike I had for the place. Like, I hated Kumon. But like after the years after, like I was kind of thankful for Kumon in a way, because it gave me like the discipline during a time in my life where I didn't want to do school at all. Like I would just like kind of be like a little bit of a little rebel. Like I would just kind of go with the flow and like just not do anything that I was supposed to. And Kumon gave me some sort of little regiment to kind of get me back on track, right? So like little things like that, or like, you know, maybe cutting off like some screen time and like, you know, going out and doing something else, or put down your phone at the table, like we have to talk and have a conversation. Like that was a big thing when we were growing up. Like, well, because my parents were divorced, so I had a stepdad for a number of years, and he and my mom were like very big on like when we get to the table, like no one on their phone. Like they were really adamant about it. Like they really got mad if someone on their phone. And at the time, like I never really had that much problem with it. My sister was the one that kind of struggled with it, and she still kind of struggles with it to this day, even though she's older than me. But like nowadays, we're like, I see my little cousin doing it, and he's younger than me, so like obviously like he's a lot more prone to going on his phone because he's part of like that younger generation that grew up with having an iPad at like the age of 5. You know what I mean? And I see, I'm like, yo, like he's talking about like this and that, like he's like, you know, getting older and like talking about girls and stuff. Like it's cool and all that, like, you're growing up and you're maturing, but like you're still acting like a little kid, right? You want to be a big bro. Like he's talking about like he's like 14 going into like high school, and he wants to do certain things that like, you know, I'm not saying on camera, but like he's trying to do certain things that maybe he shouldn't be doing at the age. I'm like, hey, you want to be treated like, you know, you want to be treated like a young adult, like an older teen. Like you got to act it, and you're not acting it when you're on your phone with an AirPod in, like when we're having dinner. Like come on, bro. Like this is your time to like hang out with your family and speak to them. Like you gotta take advantage of that moment, because you never know what's gonna happen. Like life is so unexpected. Like one day you're talking to your aunt, and the next like she might get into a car accident and then she's paralyzed for the rest of her life. Like you never know what could happen. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I'm kind of going on a tangent right now if you want to jump in. But
I mean, that topic comes back a lot, right? I think it's that important. That's why it comes back so much. I wonder, what was his response to maybe your advice giving about this topic?
He put the phone down kind of reluctantly, and he was just kind of like that for a little bit. And then eventually he went back on it, and I can't say anything else. Like, that's not my kid, right? But, like, I mean, like, the good thing with him is, like, he kind of knows it, right? He's just like a kid, and he's still young, so obviously, like, it's going to be in the back of his mind, and as he matures, he'll probably see, like, the importance of, like, why you got to put the phone down in that particular moment, right? But, like, that's the thing, like, it's all about accountability, and it stems from the people that are around you. That's why, like, hanging around, like, a group of friends is, like, so important. Like, if you're around, like, a bunch of bums and people that slack off, like, you're most likely going to be a bum or slacker. And that's why I love, like, I think that's, like, I don't know, if I were to go into, like, one of my best traits as a person, it's probably like, being able to be, like, so open-minded and, like, willing to be friends with almost, like, anybody. Like, I have such a wide range of friends, and it's because, like, I just love, like, kind of, like, learning and, like, looking at their life, like, through their lens, and, like, kind of like, that's pretty cool, like, I didn't know that before, right? And, like, not staying stagnant with, like, the connections I make, because I feel like when you have multiple different types of friends and friend groups, you as yourself continue to grow. And, I mean, the more you grow, the more, like, you become just more, like, open-minded and just, like, I guess, more intelligent about certain topics and aspects. Like, I wouldn't have known, like, certain shit you brought up if, like, we weren't supposed to do this podcast. Like, I wouldn't know certain things about, like, coding and, like, how the market works if I wasn't friends with, like, one of my guys, Nathan, who, I'm not gonna lie, like, that's my guy, but, like, you know, he's a little socially awkward. And, like, a lot of guys, like, a lot of my other friends...
He wasn't the guy at the gym, was he?
Nah, he's like one of my friends from school. Good guy, like, I love that guy. But, like, realistically, like, a lot of kids, like, kind of find him weird. And, like, even some of my other friends are like, bro, like, why do you hang with that bro? I'm like, what do you mean, why do I hang with him? Like, he's a chill bro. Like, yeah, he's a little socially awkward, but if you get to know the guy, like, he's actually one of the smartest people you'll probably ever meet. He knows so much about, like, baseball statistics. And, like, it's, like, really interesting to hear what he says a lot of the time. Like, even though, you know, like little things like that. Like, people, like, they, again, that phrase, like, judge a book by its cover, like, it's really true in terms of, like, today more than ever, because you just look at their Instagram or you look at, like, what they're showing socially, and you kind of judge based off that, and just assumptions are, like, the assumptions and expectations are just, like, the downfall of a lot of, you know, adolescents and teens nowadays. But
yeah, man, I think the podcast gives me an opportunity to do something similar, where I'm forced to sit down with someone and just talk to them for an hour to 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're talking to someone, you can't, like, sit there and just disagree with everything they say. You can disagree with some things they say, but you're forced to kind of find some middle ground, and it kind of forces you to be open-minded and learn about them and their experiences and try to find some commonalities and start a conversation about something. And, you know, I think when we think about podcasts, we look at a lot of the surface level things of, oh yeah, it's fun to, like, talk to people, it's fun to, like, have conversations about interesting things, but I think if I look deeper into the reason I find someone's joy in a podcast, and I think if you look at people who have a genuine passion and drive for the work they do, they'll be excited by and interested by some random things that are happening that most people don't even see in the background. Like, for me, one of the things I love about the podcast is that the concept of getting as many people as I can from different walks of life, like a Navy SEAL and the CEO, but also, like, my best friend and, like, this fucking, like, random kid from over here, and just trying to get as many people as I can from different places in life, and just, like, trying to sit down and have an hour or 2 hours with them.
And, like, those are, like, honestly, like, my favorite kind of people. Like, you, like, right now, like, you doing that, like, so that's why I appreciate the podcast so much, because, like, there's a lot of people, especially in our generation, that aren't like that. Like, they get stuck with this, like, social group or this clique, and they stay with those kind of people, like, throughout a majority of their life, and they don't, like, even when they go to college, they're still with those people. They don't grow. Like, and when you're not, like, kind of, I'm not saying forcing yourself to join, like, other groups of people, like, having different kinds of friends, but, like, if you're not at least attempting to, like, you know, be open-minded to, like, new people and, like, new experiences and, you know, new like, types of conversations or anything like that, then you're not going to grow as a person. And I mean, yeah,
I think if I look back at my time in high school, I've never been part of the same clique for more than a couple months. And I know that's shocking, and I can't say if it's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, people have had those, like, lifelong friendships and people they're still in touch with. Like, those are always beautiful things, but I think I've changed so much as a person in a kind of a fickle-minded way, where one 1 month I'm like so deep into this life, if you ask me any questions, I'm all about this, and then like 3 months later it's almost unrecognizable who I am, and then sometimes I go back to there and jumping here, and I think that's a part of being young, but I think everyone has that in the back of their mind, like these random desires, but they don't act upon them because maybe they don't have agency. But I'm not saying I've developed all the skills I need to develop, but one skill I am proud about that I've noticed in myself as a pattern is having high agency. That if there's something I want to do, I'll go do it. Yeah. And I'm grateful that's a skill I have.
That's a great skill to have. Yeah.
But it's not always led to perfect outcomes, because sometimes I'll start like hating my own friends, and I'll be like, I don't want to hang around them anymore, because like all of a sudden I have this idea for something else. And I think most people's response to that kind of feeling would be like to just conform back to them.
Yeah.
But then you kind of can't grow as a person. And I think your ability to be open-minded and your ability to, even if you have the same clique, like I know you've had strong friends throughout, but you still have the open-mindedness to interact with different people. Like you'll still develop in a way because you can learn from these people. But I think for me that, I remember when I first developed myself into a kind of a different person, and then I realized I kind of didn't like fit in with my old friends as much. I accepted not having a lot of close friends for a while until I found those people. And it was kind of a cope in the back of my mind, telling myself that like, oh yeah, one day they'll come, like one day I'll find the perfect friends, one day I'll have this, one day I'll have that. And maybe it was a cope, maybe it was an excuse, but it ended up becoming a reality that in my junior year, when I kind of changed my identity as like who I saw myself as a person, and I adopted more of a healthy lifestyle, all of a sudden I didn't really fit in with my old friends as much. Nothing against them, because I'm grateful for the time and experience I've had with them as well, but at the same time I didn't feel like I developed myself into a person that the people I wanted to be friends with would want to be friends with. So I'm kind of in this middle ground for a long time. It took a year, but then all of a sudden like it just kind of happens, and then all of a sudden I find myself in a friend group of people that I just absolutely love. And then it's bounced around a lot. Like I think I'm trying to like rebuild a lot of them and take them together and having them all on the podcast at some point, like from this generation to that generation, that era of my life or whatever. But it does make for a fun lifestyle to definitely have those variety of experiences.
100%.
Yeah, man.
But no, 100% agree with that. I also think that probably if I had to say my closest, I have like a wide range of friends, like I said before, and like multiple different groups of friends that that some are interchangeable, like in terms of like, okay, I can hang out with this guy, and like we can also hang out with this group because like he kind of gets along with some people in that group. But like in terms of like my best friends, who I would consider like my really good friends, one key trait among all of us is that we are very open to like just new experience, new people, new conversations. Like we're very extremely open. Like we like doing that, and like we're just able to bond with like a new group of people like just like that, right? And most of the time like we're also able to like identify, okay, like is this like person like low key fake, or they kind of like are they low key a liar? Like we can identify it quickly and then kind of like steer away from that direction, right? And I'm not saying like everyone, like not like I mean there's a lot of fake people out there today, we both know that, but like in terms of like there's people out there that are great people, but like they're not really open minded and they're kind of just like staying within their own little friend group, right? And like me and my boys, like I'll hang out with some of my boys that are like that, but like I know like that person or like that group wouldn't go well with like this group, right? So like I'll have like multiple different groups, like I hang out with them on separate times, and you probably do the same. But then I feel like my closest friends are the ones that like I can hang out with them, and we can hang out with any one of my friends from like any of the other groups, because like we're just so open-minded to like what's new and like what they want to talk about and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's good when you find friends that have same interests and stuff. Like you like to have the same kind of experiences, same kind of journeys and stuff. And those definitely make for high quality friends as well. But
100%.
Yeah, man. I think another thing I've realized is that I don't think this is a conscious decision, but I kind of do sometimes feel attracted to people in terms of friendship that maybe have more success than I do.
Yeah.
And I know obviously like it's logical to make sense that hang out with high level people so you become a high level person, but I think it's kind of been a subconscious thing I did without really realizing it, that for some reason the people I just click with, the people I just enjoy hanging out with, are people that I kind of want to be like, which kind of makes sense, right? Because you're attracted, like if you have this vision for who you want to be, and then you find these 5 people that are like that, you'll kind of be attracted to that. But only downside of that is that you'll have these moments of dissatisfaction because you'll kind of realize that they're all better than you in a way that I've experienced as well. That I think the friend group I was in the spring term of my my senior year with Ryan Murphy and all of them, I was really happy that I was in that friend group as well, because I felt like we all kind of clicked and we all kind of had the same humor and we had the same like lifestyle and all that, and it was really happy for me to make those friends. But then at the same time, like every now and then we're hanging out and like it hits me like, oh yeah, like, they're all like legit fucking college athletes, and like I'm not, and it just like hits you in the back of your mind that like shit, like they're all better than me, and I think it's good to have a little bit of the dissatisfaction.
But they're not really better than you. Like, you know what I mean?
That's
like,
the thing you tell yourself.
You tell yourself that, but like it's kind of hard because momentarily they are doing better than you, like in that specific time period. But like if you look at just your overall life trajectory, like 5 years from now, you might be doing so much better than them, right? And you don't look at it from that because like those are your boys, right? Like you're never gonna like judge them where you're at because like if you are gonna judge them like that, then you're not really friends, right? But like in the back of the mind, you are right. Like you're thinking like, okay, like they're doing so much better than me. Like what can I like be doing? But like that's the good thing about having friends like that. Like you kind of look at them, you're like, let me get on top of my shit, right? I might not do what they're exactly doing. Like I might not be the best athlete, but like let me do what works for me and let me actually like get on my grind. Right, and that's why having like a good friend group like that is really like essential to personal development.
Yeah, and I would say that I think that's a good point you bring up, and thank you for that. It's good to have a little bit of dissatisfaction, but one thing I thought about is that if you really want to achieve success in life, you kind of have. Most people will think about, okay, let's say I want to get jacked. How do I get jacked? I eat, and I lift, right? Or I want to start my own business. What do? I have to like start the business, and I need to like put these things together and like grow this and get employees and whatever you need to grow the business, right? Yeah. So when people think about the goals they want to achieve, they think about all the specific tasks they need to do. I believe if there's a goal you want to achieve, you will get more exponential returns. That if you stop obsessing over the tasks you need to do and start obsessing over the people you're around, if you prioritize being around people who have that goal already achieved, I believe you'll achieve more success than if you obsess over the tasks you need to do. Yeah. Because I think so much of the success comes from thinking in the same way of people who had that success. Like, instead of me focusing on just eating and lifting, if I just hang around a lot of people who are jacked and athletes, I'm probably going to get more success in my lifting journey than if I just obsess over the things I need to do. Obviously, you still need to do those things, but I think the people who are around you is a better predictor of your success than the things you do. 100%. Even if you do great things, 100%. I think if you're just the person who's around the high-level people, like, let's say somehow you develop the skill of being social really well. Like you read, this is one book that's really, really good about how to win friends and influence people. You learn like how social dynamics work and everything. And you find a way to become friends with 3 people who are all like CEOs or high-level business people who all have millions of dollars. And you've like developed the skill to like be friendly and be talkative, and you've made them your friends. I guarantee you that in 2 years from now, you're going to make a lot more money than you make right now. Yeah. And even if you are not as successful as them, which I think when you say that point about like the trajectory, which just got me thinking right now, let's say they are better than me. Let's say there's 5, they're college athletes, like one of them's going to Columbia, one of them's going to Navy, like that's some real shit, you know? And maybe there's never a day where I'm as good as them. Maybe there's never a day. But if I'm here and I have the choice to be around them and to be over here without them, right? Let's say let's just like make this like a math analogy. Let's say I'm a level 20 and they're level 100. Alright, if I go here and I try to work on my own, I'll probably get to like level 30. If I go here and I hang around them, I'll probably never be a level 100, but maybe I'll get to 80. Yeah. So you're better off, even if you never become like them, to surround yourself with as many people as you can that have more success than you, have achieved more than you, and you don't want to make your friendship transactional. I don't think you should like go so OD about it that okay, I'm gonna start like all these people I'm so close to, like get rid of them, only hang around with high level people that I don't even really like. Yeah. It never happened like that for me because I never like sat down and consciously thought about it until it already happened. I'm reflecting on like what I just did. Yeah. When I started becoming friends with them, there was never a moment where like these guys are high level people, like let me go be friends with them. It kind of just happened naturally, and I guess I had a tendency that pulled me toward that. And I can reflect back now and say that oh yeah, I did have a tendency to hang out with people that are better than me because I just genuinely felt like I clicked with them because they maybe thought like me and they had similar like vision than me and we were able to laugh together. And then because of that, I just happen to be here and I can reflect on that and see that, you know, hanging around these kind of people will make you into that person. Yeah.
Let's go back into what you said about being transactional, like in terms of a friendship, because I feel like a lot of my friendships were like I'm able to sit down and talk about absolute bullshit and have a great time with them. A lot of my friendships are transactional in many different ways. For example, like let's talk about like my friend Kenzel. That's my guy. Like me and him, we've been playing basketball since like 5th grade. We were on 2 teams that were like really good. Like one of our teams went 19-0 back in like 6th grade, and like 19-0, like first time in like the history of the Boys and Girls Club in Clifton, some crazy shit. And then back in 8th grade, we joined an AAU team for basketball, and we were able to go to nationals in South Carolina, which is like really cool. So we've gone through a lot together, right? And it's really cool because me and him, once we graduated high school and we finished our athletic career in terms of him finishing basketball, and then I transitioned from basketball to running and I finished running, we were like, okay, like what do we do now, right? And it was really cool to see that we both were like, let's apply like everything we learned from sports into like the professional world and like what we want to pursue career-wise, right? And I went like we're both finance majors. He went his own route and I went my own route. But what's cool about it is like we're both able to share like from both of our own like paths that we've taken, like commonalities and some differences within it. So like for example, like the program I was talking to you about, SEO, right? He's also in it. I didn't know that until like I called him the other day just to check in with, like, yo, what's good with you? Like, what you been on, blah blah blah. And I was like, wait, yo, like, are you in SEO? Because I just feel like that's something you would do, right? Because I saw like a lot of because he goes to Stevens Institute in Hoboken, and I saw there's a lot of SEO applicants that are from that school. And I was like, are you in SEO? He's like, yeah, dude. Like, I have my welcome call coming up. I'm like, damn, what? Really? He's like, yeah. And then he started telling me, because he knows more people in SEO than I do. He started telling me like some of the questions they're gonna ask in terms of like, because like essentially you pick the track of career you want to take, and then you're assigned a like a CDA, someone that's like gonna interview, and based off that track they're gonna ask you specific questions. And since our tracks were so similar, he was able to kind of help me like kind of prepare for the interview. And it was really cool because like I was able to like oh crap, bro, like if I didn't know that, I probably would have got like scored less on that interview and wouldn't have gone in. But like he was able to help me, and like in that moment, like I was kind of grateful for that, because like if he didn't tell me that, I probably wouldn't have gone into the program and stuff like that. And like vice versa, like he'll have a question about the markets or like something in trading, and I'll be like, yeah, this is my particular look and narrative on like this particular index or stock. And then he's like, okay, explain why. And then I'll explain it to you like, wow, like I never looked at it from that point of view. So like a lot of time when I meet up with a guy like that, like a lot of the conversation we're having is transactional. We're giving pieces of information that we could use to our benefit, and it goes like vice versa. Like I could be telling something he doesn't know, and he could be telling me something I don't know. But like there's still middle ground where like we'll be talking about like females or something, or talking about ball. Like that's just like random conversation. But I feel like all my friendships in some sort of way are transactional, and the ones that are more transactional than not, I value higher. Like I don't know if that's messed up or anything, but like that's just how I work, or that's just how it is for me.
In my opinion, I wouldn't define that as transactional. I'll tell you why. I know it seems transactional because we're kind of using each other for a purpose. Like I'm getting information from you, you're getting information from me.
Yeah.
But there's still depth to the relationship, right? I'll tell you, when I look at a transactional relationship, I mean that I look at someone and I see opportunity in them, and I choose to become friends with him because I can maybe get access to that opportunity.
Yeah.
Like for example, like there's that guy sitting on the other side of the room. He's the son of the teacher, so I think to myself that I'm gonna become friends with him so that maybe I get a better relationship with his father and I get better grades. Like I think it's the intention behind it.
Yeah.
That like I want this friendship so I can get access to X.
Okay.
All right.
But hear me out real quick. What if you do that, right? You're like, okay, I'm not gonna lie, like that guy, I know his dad works for some big firm in Brazil, like international student. Like maybe he knows more than me. Maybe I should start to get, pick his brain a little bit, right? But in order for me to pick his brain, I got to get to know the guy, become friends with him. And then throughout some time, you're like, actually, this guy's pretty chill. Though it started off as something that was a transactional friendship that you were aiming for, is it still somewhat morally wrong that you ended up becoming friends with the guy?
I would say intent matters for sure. And even if you had that intent that I actually want to just learn more about this, I think if you're upfront about it, and even just tell him like, yo, like I heard like blah blah blah, I'm curious about it, tell me more. And I want to start a lot of relationships in that way, where I literally just go up to someone, I'm genuinely curious about something about him.
Yeah.
And if you communicate the intent, it's fine, and then you end up being friends with him, and then there's depth to the relationship.
Yeah.
Then it's fine.
Yeah.
Right. For example, with you and your friend, bro, like you've gone through so much shit together. Like you used to play basketball together, and now you're doing this together. And you also like talking about shit outside of it, right? And you just do it for you don't do it for any like selfish intent. You just do it because you just go with the flow and just having a good time, right? So, in my opinion, that's not a transactional relationship. I think it has that deepness to it. And even if maybe the intent was to learn more about it, but you're upfront about it and you're genuinely curious about it, then you're totally fine. Because like, if I'm sitting with a Navy SEAL in front of me, like in a podcast, like obviously, like he's a fucking Navy SEAL and I want to learn about that, right? But if I literally started the podcast saying, like, yo, I walked up to him at the end of the chapel. I wasn't like pretending to be friends with him or anything. I was like, bro, you're a Navy SEAL. Like, I want to learn more about you. Like, come on my podcast. And if you're communicating that intent, and we respect each other more because then we had a great podcast, we had a good time, right? And things like that.
And at the end of the day, like, when you do something like that, what do people love to do most? What do people like love to just do? They love to just talk about themselves and what they've done.
That's what I learned doing this shit.
And like, it's kind of like you understand. Like, no, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I love talking about myself too, right? But as I've gotten older, I'm like, low key, if you play the part of the listener more often than not in conversations, you're more likely not gonna like end up learning more and coming off as someone that's, you know, someone just knowledgeable, because obviously like, you're always playing the part of the listener, and you just learn more that way than just talking about yourself and like your own experiences. Then like based off what they're talking about and what they're bringing to the conversation, then you can go off of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's why the style of my podcast I like. I don't try to do it like too much interview style where I'm sitting here asking the questions and I bring up my stuff, but I'm also listening. It gives it a perfect balance where it's like a conversation, right? Like you're bouncing off each other. Like I try to still to like listen and try to understand what he's saying, because you can't really respond in an effective way and build off of what he said if you say one thing and I say one thing and it's not connecting, you know? So I think the skill of listening is something I've been trying to develop more. But yeah, man, I think
it's hard though. It's a little hard because like you want to talk about like what you've gone through in your own experience, because it's fun to talk about it. Like it's fun to like share like what you think is like what you think about like the traditional family dynamic, and then like see what I'm thinking about it, and like you're gonna spark it up, and you'll probably end up going on a tangent about it. But like sometimes like it's better off just like let the other person go and be like, okay, like now I see what you're about to say. Like let me say my part and like let me not be redundant on it. Right?
Yeah, when I'm doing it with a friend, like, I don't start overthinking that much. Like I'm just kind of like
exactly,
we're just vibing, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's something I do start to think about that piece more when I get like a high level person on, like a CTO or something like that. Like
100%.
Like once in a while, I think right after our first episode, I had the audio. Sorry if that was obnoxious on the mic, guys. Right after episode 40, I did episode 41 with the CTO of this company called Attribution. So I literally had to sit. That was mostly me sitting back and listening. Yeah. Right, and this like building. And we had an hour and a half. It went pretty well. And then obviously I shared my own stuff with it. So it ended up. I like the conversational style format, anyways. Yeah. But it kind of becomes less of a conversation when you get high level people on, more of an interview, you're just listening. But yeah, I think I listen to Joe Rogan a lot because it might be embarrassing to admit this, but I have like a fascination with him and the way he does his podcast. That he's done like over 2,000 episodes. He's had hundreds and hundreds of people on from just different walks of life. He's had his best friend on. He's had athletes on. He's had artists on. He had music. He has people from everywhere. He's
archaeologists,
had he's had like honestly like people he doesn't even agree with, and it's like honestly kind of debating during the podcast. Like the guy who was like has a fake moon theory. What's that? The moon landing theory. And he's in the whole podcast like debating against him before telling him at the end that like he was trying to like steelman it a little bit to like go against him just to challenge him a little bit, but then at the end he's like sharing that this kind of like sounds kind of fucked up. Yeah. But I think the point I'm trying to bring here is that one thing I'm fascinated about is that he can hold a 3-hour conversation with anyone. And doing this shit, I realized how fucking hard that is. With a guy like you, it's easy. Yeah. But bro, I've had people on where I'm just like it's like I'm trudging through snow.
Yeah. It's like you're just like trying to get through that conversation.
Yeah. So that's something I like. Listening is what I want to get through. Yeah. Because he's so good at listening. Yeah. He's curious. He's good at listening. He
knows how to get like the person that he's on the podcast with. He knows how to get their wheels turning a little bit, and then like, he's like, okay, now I know like what their interests are. Like let me add a little question to like continue to further that further. You know what I mean? And like back to the podcast, like let's pick your brain for a second. Like what do you think? Like what's your future plan for like this podcast? Like what do you want to incorporate more that you've seen like from other podcasts, and like what new ideas do you want to bring to the table?
It's a good question. I think with my podcast, I don't really know what episode 1000 is gonna look like, but I know I want to get there. Yeah. I don't want to stop. I want for the rest of my life to be this time capsule where I could access like an hour or two of my mind with someone else having a conversation from every week of my life. Yeah. Like imagine how fucking amazing
that'd be so cool, dude.
Like imagine having a conversation every week of your life. I have a tap. Even if I have like a fucking like 1,000 subscribers, that's it. Yeah. Just enough to to sign up for the monetization program on YouTube. Yeah. Just enough. The first thing I know I want is to just never stop. And luckily, I've been doing this by October it'll be a year.
That's cool. That's great, dude. Congrats. It's actually great.
That's
awesome. Dude. That's so cool.
If I can be consistent with it and while enjoying it, there's definitely moments where I don't enjoy it too. But if I can just keep going 1 week at a time, 1 week, I know that I want to get to episode 1,000, episode 2,000, episode 3,000, episode 10,000.
You will. Like, you will.
That's one thing I know for sure. But in addition to that, I want this podcast to kind of grow and adapt on its own and just kind of just go like this and that and that. And I think the problem with podcasts is that there's a way you can design it to make money, right? Not everyone can do it like Joe Rogan, where he doesn't do video titles. He just has the name of the person, and he just like has 3 hours of whole random topics. Like, if I did it like that, like no one's podcast would grow. I mean, Joe Rogan is naturally gifted at what he does, and he was able to grow his platform. But I don't think for most people to grow their podcast, they gotta put fancy thumbnails, they gotta put fancy titles, they gotta invest in all that, and make the videos exactly 45 minutes long because that's what's optimal for podcasts, and like edit all the boring shit. And you gotta do so much to make it generate money. You gotta do so much to commercialize it. And then when people find the way to design a podcast that generates money, they find, oh wait, I just do this thumbnail, I do this type, I get this kind of person.
It takes away from the process.
All of a sudden, you're doing this thing, and then you'll never stop that thing. Because truth be honest, what did I just say? To be honest, money is important. Yeah. And the second you start making money off of it, then all of a sudden you have this one podcast that episode 800 looks exactly like episode 1800. Right? If you look at any podcast, like I look at like Modern Wisdom, Diary of a CEO, like those are great podcasts I love, and it's always the same. If you just go back, it's like the same style, the same format, and they love that style. And if they genuinely do, like nothing against them. Yeah. But for me, it's like I want to bring the skill of the agency I had to the podcast. Where I want to be this, even if I find something that makes money, I want to be comfortable, like just doing all different kinds of different styles with it. You know, like like if I have an idea to do something, like do this to it, do that to it, and be comfortable to change. So that like I could look at the progression of it, that episode 50 looks so different than episode 150, then 250, and 350, and see it evolve with time and become something more and more beautiful along the way. Yeah. I just want to make sure I can keep this beautiful and not lose the vision behind it.
Like, what would be like kind of cool, I feel like too, is also like do exactly what you're doing right now, right? Like, for example, let's say you had an artist on there, right? Yeah. Like, and instead of having like a conversation where like we're sitting down like talking straight up, like you could do the same thing we're doing, like, you know, you're talking to them about like this and that, right, about art, and then you're asking like, you know, maybe more generic questions. But like while you're doing all that, what if you guys, you know, they were a painter and you had your painting, like your little canvas here, and they had their little canvas there, and then while you're talking, you're painting the entire time. So it's like kind of like niche specialized for like you know, like art, you know what I mean? And then like, at the end of the podcast, you can look at whatever the hell you made while you were talking and be like, what the hell is that? Or like, what is that? Or like it could be something like really symbolic, and then you look at it and you're like, damn, like, chill, like if you actually think about it, if you look at the way that circle is like made, and then you look at the corner of the canvas, like that kind of shows you what the meaning of life, like some bullshit like that, you know what I mean? And then you look at the painting, you're like, holy crap, bro, break down your painting. He's like, yeah, I'll break it down, and like you kind of pick their brain about the painting, like little stuff like that. Or like another example would be, I'm trying to think, like a, I don't know, maybe a bat. Let's say you're like with a D1 hooper from Michigan, right? You're like one of your boys. You're like, hey, you want to do a podcast? Like, do a podcast. Maybe it's like a little shoot around or something, right? And then you sit down, and you talk a little bit, something a little more like active.
Let's say we're at a basketball court, like every like 30 minutes, we'll go like shoot rounds, and come back.
Like it'd be like some chill shit like that, throwing something like that, and then like maybe like another segment of the podcast could be like, okay, like let's get two bros who you know will have completely different views on a subject, right? And you get them in the
You told me this last time, and I liked it. I haven't done it yet.
Something like that. But like, regardless if that ends up getting more views or not, like
it's fun.
It's fun,
and
right?
The niche could be that I'm always experimenting.
And the good thing with you is like, you're not in it for the money. You're in it for like the purpose, which is like in itself is going to generate so much more people to watching, because like they can see through it, and they can see like that you're transparent and you're not doing it for personal gain. You're doing it because you actually want to learn about the people. And like people love like ingenuity like that. They love people that are truthful like that. Like they're like doing it because they actually love it and not doing it to make a living off of it. And if you experience it with that, again, like you're taking it all sorts of roads. But like it'd be really cool to see like what like the podcast will look like, because it's so like different, you know what I mean, in so many different aspects. But
I'll tell you something, a lot of people give me ideas for what I can do with the podcast. And then some people give me like stupid fucking ideas, like, yo, you should like make your podcast like 10 minutes long, and like some stupid shit, right?
Yeah.
And I usually get pissed off when people tell me like, oh, we should do this with the podcast, that with the podcast. But I'll tell you, like, I really, really actually like your ideas.
Yeah.
They're
like, no,
genuinely...
like what you're doing now is literally perfect. Just add a little...
Genuinely, like... Because the thing is, like, it adds more of, like, a spice to it that it sounds fun. Like, let's say the next time I get you on, like, 10, 20 episodes from now, I get you and I'll pull, like, someone random I know and not even tell you who it is, and then get you guys together and do a podcast together.
Or, like, one day, like, we could literally just be at the gym, like, literally lifting or, like, doing something maybe not as strenuous where, like, we can talk more while we're doing a physical activity and then see, like, what thoughts come out of our mind while we're, like, doing that. And then eventually, like, when we go down for, like, a water break or we go out the gym, we find a little spot, we sit up there and we continue talking and see, like, okay, what were we talking about in the gym? And what were we talking about now? And, like, let's compare the two conversations from those two different time frames. You know what I mean? Like, that's, like, I don't know. I feel like...
There's so many ways to have fun with it.
Yeah. That's the great... A podcast is just, like, there's so much versatility with it. You know what I mean?
I want to get into some of these. I'm going to start writing these down. And maybe every now and then I want to find a way to make the episode, like... maybe sit down and think to myself, like, how can I make this episode more epic? Yeah. Like, let's think of a creative place to do this.
And it's not even just, like, get more views. It's like it's just, like... That was really
cool. I'll tell you something, like... I don't think there's a podcast like that exists.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, where you just have fun with it, like just fuck around.
Yeah.
You know, like just like get these, or like we'll do a podcast on the roof. Like I don't fucking know.
Like that, or like you're building something and you're just talking. Like we
can build Legos. Well.
Yeah, you're having a conversation with a carpenter and like talking about their whole life that led up to them like being a carpenter, or like being someone that builds like roofs, and like while they're talking about their whole life trajectory, you're building a roof. Like that's just like funny. It's kind of funny. It's cool. And you're still getting what you started. You're still like getting that, like that main objective of like the whole idea behind the podcast, which is to learn about people.
I had a chef on. I could have been like cooking something.
Yeah, like that. Just how you see what I'm saying. Like
there's so much you could do, man. Especially when I get, let's say I end up growing this maybe 3-4 years from now, and I get better camera angles and people helping me out. Like Mike.
I'm not even playing. Like I genuinely believe you'll grow this like podcast. Like I'm not. So? I genuinely believe like I have full faith in you. Like you're gonna grow this podcast, and. It's not even just like, okay, you might not grow it to like 10 million subscribers or whatever. Maybe you do, but I know at the end of the day you're going to grow it. Like, I just know like you're going to get this podcast. Like, I can just tell. Like, I just know.
I appreciate that, man.
I just know.
I appreciate it. I'm going to write these ideas down. I actually really enjoyed this conversation. Almost 2 hours. It's pretty fucking good.
How long are typically the podcasts like, that you have?
Recently about an hour and a half.
Hour and a half.
But when I find someone I can flow with, it's always a good time.
Also, it's been 2 hours because we have to cut some of the time.
I think it's like 10-minute cuts, so it's almost been 2 hours. It's about like an hour 50 in reality. But, yeah, man. I'm gonna write these ideas down. I'm gonna get you on again. We're gonna do something fun. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna let you know.
Me, you. We could do like another like one-on-one, or we could get like maybe like another bra or something.
Yeah, get Murph back.
Yeah, get Murph on here.
That'd be fun, man.
See what he does. He always says some pretty interesting topics. So let's see what's up.
Yeah, what are you guys thoughts about jacking off?
Yo, like.
Let's check out episode 40.
Be like, she's kind of bad. I really like Italian girls, like some shit like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he would. Like, we didn't get. I know at the gym we're talking about your stories in Maine. So how about we end off? Let's get a little bit deeper. Tell me about your experience in Maine. You went last week or one you go?
Oh yeah, like last.
Just got back.
Yeah.
So tell me how it was.
It was just like, you know, it's a really nice little getaway, and it made me realize I'm like, wow, like, first of all, if you ever been to Maine, it's pretty. It gets dark at night. There's not a lot of light. There's not a lot of people down there. It's kind of it gets a little lonely. But if you're with a group of people, a group of guys, like, you're bound to have some fun because it's so beautiful. Like, the house was like right on the lake, and we would just literally jump off the dock and we're in the lake and we're swimming, and it was just every day it was just us like swimming and kayaking and sorry, that just threw off my thinking completely. But
yeah, who is it?
I think it's a dog.
Okay.
But yeah, it was just like really good to be out there in nature, and I mean throughout the entire time. We were having some like really deep conversations, and these are like, I would consider these three friends like to be like that niche of people I was talking to you about that are very open-minded. Like they're very like they're interchangeable with a lot of different groups of people, and I really appreciate people like that. Therefore, like I feel like comfortable and like really look forward to going on a trip with them. So when we were in Maine, we were having like really deep conversations. We were also just like talking about bullshit and laughing, and like just being out there in nature with a group of people like that made me realize I'm like, dude, like we really like as a species don't need much to like be happy.
Yeah,
and like
we talking about that earlier.
Yeah, exactly. We don't really need much to like go off of, like just food, water, shelter, good group of guys, and just like being open-minded. Like literally that's really all you need. Like, and like some sort of and survival skills, like in terms of like being able to like live out there in the wild, which a lot of us can't because, you know, we've moved so much into like this corporate like industrialization kind of world. But like it made me realize like if I really wanted to, bro, like if someone had a crib in Maine like that, or like maybe some more like even more like remote place like Wyoming, like you could literally just be out there with your boys with some food and shit, and just like literally just be chilling, bro. Like let's go on a hike to like this little reservoir or like this little lake, and like let's just like walk for like miles, and then like hey like oh shit like it's getting dark, like we can't even make it back in time, like it's okay, like let's just see how it is to camp, like shit like that. Like you get so much more out of experiences like that than like yo
another day in the office.
Yeah, like another day in the office, or like yo like I'm trying to go to the strip club, like you know what I mean, like shit like that. Like I don't know, and it made me realize like I really haven't really appreciated nature throughout my entire life until like really now. And like there's been other times where I've gone on vacation, I really like wow, like I'm kind of like stunned by just like what I'm seeing, but like it's only for a brief glimpse in time, and I was really young at the time, so I really didn't take into account like how like cool it was to be out there. And like now that I'm older and I'm a lot more reflective, like I really thought I was like, no, like this is where I want to be. Like this is where I want to be able to like be financially stable enough where I can afford like a house in an area like this, where I can get away and just let my mind run amok and just be able to get away from everything. You know what I mean? And it kind of made me realize I'm like, okay. Before this, I was already with the mindset like, okay, I need to kind of like start getting ready for school and like start getting like ready for internships and put myself in a position where I can get hired by a bank, right? But like this trip kind of more like reinforced that idea, and it made me kind of realize like where my priorities lay and like what I have to do to make sure that I actually keep them intact and I follow up on them, you know what I mean? So it was overall it was a great trip. Great guys, Hudson, Nick, Chaz, if you're watching this, love y'all. Shout out Chaz, my boy Chaz. That's the one you saw in the gym. That's his house.
Which one was it?
The guy we saw, the fastest guy in the state, quote unquote. That guy. It's his house.
You look pretty athletic, man.
It's my guy, but 100%. Like I don't know. I want to get more of that. I want to get more experiences.
Yeah, let's dig that, bro. I love any opportunity you have where you're able to step out of your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Because to make our life easier, what our brain does is it tries to look for patterns and find consistency, and then adapt to that consistency so that it can use less brain power in general, right? Like if you know the sink is right there, like you don't have to spend time thinking about where's the bathroom. Yeah. Right? You kind of just like on autopilot go there, and you autopilot the food's ready here. When you get accustomed to a routine, you get so deep into that there's some things that are right in front of you 100%. That you just forget about. They're there the whole time, right? And an opportunity you have like a week going out with your boys to Maine. Every time I travel, I just get like a new insight about life, and I'm amazed that you're able to have that as well. And I think the problem with our society today, right, when you think about the corporate world and we talk about the need to make money, it really, you kind of do forget about other aspects of life, and you get so wrapped up in that bubble. And I think most of us are living in one kind of bubble, whether it be this bubble or that bubble. But everything, it takes perspective, and I think for so long we're just in the forest, like grabbing trees, but then a trip like this puts you on a mountain. Yeah. And then you can kind of see everything. And you can see oh wait, I'm in this forest.
That's a cool way to put it.
I'm in this forest, but there's a whole other forest over here that I didn't even see. Right? And you just, there's so much to life.
But like that forest has like so many pools of water, and like we can actually go swimming there. I never even knew how to swim because there's no pools of water.
Yeah, like you didn't know the concept of swimming because you're just so wrapped up in this bubble, right?
And like you wouldn't know that unless you were to step out of your little bubble and like look over there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's important for us to take that time to separate from technology, from our life, from even school and shit, from even the day-to-day hustle. I think a lot of people they go on these, a lot of people who work this corporate job say that, oh yeah, I do take breaks because I go on that 1 week vacation at the end of the year. But I think even more than that, like I think a lot of people even do vacations in a way where they're just rushing, like I have 1 week in Japan, I want to like see all the highlights and just like jump from place to place to place. But I've even found out more that you don't have to go to some like fancy crazy place or stay in a fancy resort. Like
it's a weekend trip.
You could just go to like a fucking like mountain like 2 miles from maybe like 2 hours from your house, right?
Yeah.
I think any opportunity you have to slow it down, to be more reflective and think more, and to put yourself in a completely new environment.
Like imagine like going to an entirely new city, or maybe a city you've been to very few times, and like maybe like let's not take our phone and only take our wallet. Like let's see how we get around that, because we have
I want to have that experience.
Like that'd be like kind of cool, because like literally like how the hell are we gonna, like we got to figure out how we're gonna get from place to place with no phone, and like that's gonna be pretty interesting to see. Or like for example, like I want to go back to Maine with my boy eventually one day. I'm pretty sure I will, but like we'll see how it is because it's his crib, right? But like I told him, I was like, yo, next time we come, like let's do something productive. Like let's do everything we just did recently, right? Like, fuck around, have some fun, do some shit. But like, let's build something. Like, let's start like cutting some wood or something. Like, let's actually build. Like, I was saying, like, let's make. You know, you ever seen like those gyms?
Look at this shit.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You good? Oh my fucking god.
Fire truck. But like, you ever seen like those outside gyms, like those gyms that are outside? It's like wooden weights. Like, imagine like we can make that.
That'd be so fun.
Like, cause he doesn't have a gym out there, so like imagine just like I'll be like, yo, let's make a couple wooden dumbbells, and then like let's make a couple like a wooden barbell, and then like maybe a bench or something like that, and then like let's just have some weights in the
pull
back.
ups on the fucking branch of the tree.
Yeah, like an actual like pull up bar that's made out of wood, like it's on a tree, like like some shit like that, like, or make a swing or like something like cool like that. Let's do that next time. Like, I don't know. And then going back to like the trip too, like when I took mushrooms with my friends, right? I want to say I had any crazy visuals, because when you take mushrooms, usually when you take enough like a higher dosage, you'll see like some crazy shit. Like, you'll see like everything really becomes vibrant. But like my dosage wasn't too high, but I still had like really good feelings about it. Like, I was still getting like those trippy feelings. And I realized about myself, like, I really love like I want to be on a journey like at all times. Like, when I was on the journey, like, I need to be doing something, because like it feels so satisfying to like, okay, we're gonna do this, and like this is how we're gonna do it, and then let's do it. And then eventually when you do it, you're like, oh damn, that's nice. Like, getting to the top of a mountain and like overlooking like the entire lake, it's like, damn, like that was so worth it. You know what I mean? It feels like so accomplishing, like something like that. And I just feel like after that trip, I was like, I want that, I want to do that, but like like on a higher level. Like, I'm gonna be like, okay, I want to have a journey, like personally, like career wise, and then I want to see like maybe that mountain is me landing like an actual position at a job. You know what I mean? And then throughout the way, everything's like a balance. Like, you can't just be like work. Like, you could be mainly work focused. Like, a lot of your time is focused on like whatever your priorities are in terms of like career aspirations and stuff like that. But along the way, like, go outside and like take a hike, or like go into the city and do some weird shit. Like, don't bring your phone, just bring your wallet. Or like you and your boys just drive up to Illinois for no reason. Just drive up one day, like, for no reason, just see what the hell goes on there. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell is going on in Illinois right now? Like, something like random like that. Like, mad funny, like, bro, why are we here? And then you step into a bar, and then like it'd be crazy. Like, you step into a bar, like, you'll have a couple of drinks and be like, you'll look at it'll be like, have a conversation with some random old guy and be like, the guy would be like, yeah, like, I used to work 25 years at like at a hedge fund in Chicago, and like, you're like, holy shit, like, that's crazy that I just stumbled into a bar in Illinois, and I just met like a hedge fund manager who knows so much.
Those experiences happen more often than you think.
Yeah, like 100%, like stuff like that.
It's the beauty of life, always on an adventure.
And the thing is, like, older people, since they know more than us, they know what we know, except add like 20 years, 30 years of experience. So like, they know when they see a kid like that, like, they're like, they appreciate.
And they kind of like have fun, like sharing their knowledge too.
Yeah,
they see a bright young kid, like, who wants to like.
They want you to pick their brain, right? Like, they want you to pick their brain. So
people love talking about this stuff too.
Exactly, bro. Exactly.
Amazing. Yeah. It takes discipline though, because I think we all know the things we love. Like, I love hiking, I love going on these ventures, but then when you have work that comes up and you have school that comes up and like I got obligations that come up, it's easy to push it back.
Yeah.
Because I think society today, it's kind of looked down upon to like do fun things for yourself. It's always like this mindset of like work first, like work is the most important thing, and it's so easy for us to push these things back. But I think it takes discipline for you to actually say like, you know what, like at least once a week I want to do something with my friends. And I wanted to bring up the concept of friends as well, because I think most people these days don't spend a lot of time with their friends. Like, they might have a lot of friends, but they might only hang out with them like once a week or something like that. Historically, people used to spend a lot more time with their friends, even recently, like 100 years ago. Like, people on average majority of people would spend like 2 or 3 hours a day with their friends every single day. And now it's like, we'll go on a trip once a year, we'll see each other a year, but then we get caught up in the mix of things.
Especially like when people get older, like once like they're in their later years of college, or like after college,
like 20s and 30s.
Yeah, they're not spending that much time with their friends anymore.
They only value like these short experiences, like, oh yeah, we'll go like do this trip, and then we don't see each other at all, right? I think it should be a part of everyday life. Like, as much as you value, like, for me, like, I value my health and what I eat and going to the gym. You probably value that a lot too. You probably value like the work you do for college and you're going to the gym and all that. I think it should be a priority. If you care about our happiness and everything, we should say that, you know what, I should try to do something social every day. Whether that's like hitting up a friend from so long and like going lifting with him, or just like calling up 2 friends from middle school and like having dinner with them, or just calling up people that just have a podcast, or just talk without even having a podcast.
And there's so many ways that like you can have these engagements that are like so like productive in terms of like I don't know. Like, for example, like, us having this conversation right now, there's so much that we learned, like, especially, like, me, like, learning from you. Like, so much I learned that I didn't know about before. So, like, I would consider that productive. Instead of, like, you and your friend, and, like, I think we all have friends like this where, like, you'll talk to them about something, and it's, like, the same thing every time you have a conversation with that bro. Like, all right, bro, like, I know, like, she's bad. Like, I know, like, bro, like, you're trying to hit that, but, like, you told me that 3 times.
There's some depth to it.
Yeah, you told me that 3 times.
I've had friends like that, too.
Or, like, I don't even know, or some shit where it's like, all right, like, let's start a business. Like, bro, you're not starting a business, bro. Like, just chill. Like, why don't you tell me, like tell me what interests you, bro. Like, let's go into that. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you gotta, like, don't, like, commit yourself to some shit like that. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, like, you're gonna go your way, I'm gonna go my way, he's gonna go his way, right? But at the same time, we're gonna keep going that way with more knowledge if we keep talking about, like, what we're, like, what we're seeing, like, along that route. You know what I mean? To kind of put it, like, metaphorically.
One point, like, I love these conversations as well, but it's not so bad every now and then to be in those states, you know, where you're just with your boys and saying, "Oh, she's bad." And, like,
yeah.
But I think what you're really saying is that there's a lack of this at all, completely.
I guess I just something a little different because, like, I was just so used to that for so long, like, in high school. Like, I have a lot of friends like that, and, like, in high school we were, like, you know, we're so much more immature, so it's different. But, like, I guess, like, some people never really change, or, like, I guess they're still changing, whereas, like, I kind of went to college and, like, met some new people and, like, that had their priorities already set, like, going into college, and I was like that's where I want to be. You
feel good being around those people that have, like, clarity about life. Yeah, like, kind of just going through the motions.
Yeah, like, I kind of I'm like, yeah, you know what you're doing. Like, you have your shoulders on, like, you have like, your eyes and your sights set.
There's something so attractive about someone who has clarity.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
100%. But yeah, bro, it's been a good conversation. It's been a good podcast.
I love this. We should definitely do this again. This might be, like, my second longest podcast.
What's the first one?
Ryan Bennett. It's actually the one I was talking to you about in another podcast. He was the ultra marathon runner.
Wow.
Dude, you gotta watch that episode, bro. It's he's a really good story.
Wait, type your shit in right now. I'm gonna watch one.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, no. Maybe next time we do a podcast, we could try out one of the ideas we said before.
Yeah, bro. I'll make a list, and we'll decide that beforehand, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you got your shitty internet.
Bro, it's gonna be so cool though when you go to Michigan. Like, that's gonna be awesome, bro.
Like, I go through these phases where, like, I have so many people to podcast, I have no one to podcast, so many people to podcast, no one to podcast.
Yeah.
I think as soon as I get there, bro, I'll have, like, so many opportunities. Like, I can podcast like this professor, I can podcast like this athlete, I can podcast this. Like, there'd be so many people to meet. Yeah. What's up? Alright. Yeah, the one I was talking about was.
Wait, how many do you have again? You have,
this
like,
is number 46.
Oh wow, so you're close to 52.
52?
Yeah. Because I was thinking you were doing it on a weekly schedule. So
yeah.
Like,
it's like a year. Yeah. Oh, I was like, what the fuck is 52? Where's that? It's actually a while back. This is episode 22.
22.
Yeah, this one.
It's my number.
This guy.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch that shit later.
All right. Yeah, I do like that one, man.
Real quick before we end it, because I know we're about to end it soon, because I gotta get home soon. But how do you feel about numerology, like, in terms of, like,
what?
Numerology.
What's that? Like numbers?
Yeah, and, like, the significance and meanings behind certain numbers. Like, are you, like, a little, like, nah, it's not me, or, like, I don't know enough about that, or are you, like, a little?
Tell me more about what you mean.
So I don't know. So when I got into University of Miami, it was, like, one of the only, like, actual schools that were, like, that I wanted to go to that I got into. I got denied early decision to BU. I didn't get into NYU. I didn't get into Rutgers Business School. And then, like, when I didn't get into Rutgers, that was, like, the third school I didn't get to, and I was like, damn, bro, like, I'm about to go in state to some, like, lower end school, and, like, I'm not gonna be able to experience, like, that. Like, I guess, like, I wanted to have, like, an actual college experience, like, at like a tough school. And I was kind of like, I was breaking down a little bit in front of my mom, because I was just like, I didn't know what was gonna happen. I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life at that point. And my mom was like, just calm down, like, life will work its way out. And she told me, she's like, I don't know why, but I have a feeling about Miami, right? And she was saying she had a feeling about Miami. I said, okay. And then eventually I got the acceptance letter that I got in, and I was, like, super hype about it. And then since I was a spring admin, during the fall I took classes at, like, a community college. And throughout my time, like, throughout the fall and going in, like, and eventually when I went to UMiami in the spring, I kept seeing this number, like, 22. Like, I don't know what it was. Like, I'm not even saying I was looking for it, like, deadass. I would look at the clock, like during like some random moment, and sometimes most often not it'd be like when I was like having a serious conversation or like something, like I had like a little epiphany. I would look at the clock and it would say like 9:22 or like 8:22 or something 22, like some weird.
I guess I have it right now. 2 hour podcast over has ended with 22.
Yeah, exactly, bro. And then, like, exactly, that's what I'm saying. And then like another time, like when I got to Miami, another example of that would be like we went to the first parking spot that we pulled up to in Miami, which was like the one in front of the Thesis Hotel, which we were staying so that we could help move me into my dorm. But guess what the parking number was?
22.
1122. Like shit like that. And I keep seeing 22. And my mom told me, 'cause she has a very spiritual friend, right? And she told me the meaning behind 22 is that you're on the right pathway, like you're on the right life way,
wow.
like you're doing the right thing. And I was like, chill. Like I wasn't big on that shit. I was like, chill. Like I'm not gonna read too deep into it. But like the more and more I kept like spending, like the more and more like the weeks went on in Miami, the more I realized I was like, no funny shit, bro. Like there's like an energy here, like in this city. Like there's an energy like that's just telling me like I gotta be here for a reason. No matter how much like school, like student debt I'm gonna be in, like there's just something telling me like I can't leave. Like I need to just stick with it.
Guess what the date is today?
That's what I'm saying, bro. Like that's literally what I'm saying.
July 22nd, guys.
July 22nd, and like. There's something about that number that's just like every time I look at it, and maybe it's like a placebo because every time I look at it, I'm like, no funny shit, like that's a sign like I'm on the right way. Let me continue doing what I'm doing. Like I'd be like, for example, one time I did like 6 hours in a row straight studying for an exam I had no idea about, and I didn't want to study it for work. I was like, no funny shit, I could probably cheat on this shit, right? But I was like, no funny shit, let me just put the hours in and make a study guide so I can be prepared. I finished the 6 hour study session. I go to the elevators, like in my dorm building, right, the residential building called Mahoney Pearson, and every single number in Mahoney Pearson, like there's 3 elevators, and they all have like a number assigned to each elevator. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. And no, like, this shit will sound random to anyone that doesn't get the full grasp of the story, but when you see the number 22 all the time, like I do, like when you're not even trying to look for it, it's just like it's kind of like it starts like something starts happening to me for some reason. Like something in my mind starts like, I don't know.
I'm looking around to say there's any more 22.
That's the thing. Like I tell myself, I try not to get caught too deep into it. I'm like, oh, I gotta look for 22 because like nah, like I just like I just be living my life. But sometimes like I'll be talking to my boys about something serious, something like close and like kind of touching, and I'll look at the clock and it just says 22. Or like I'll be having a good moment with my family, like either out here like when we're having a barbecue or like my aunt's house, and I'm like having a big damn, like this is really nice, bro. Like this is what life really is about. And I'll look at the clock and it's like 22.
So when you have moments of depth, when you have moments of clarity, so these positive moments, like you've studied for 6 hours or you had a 2 hour conversation with a great friend, like I think those are the moments where the number appears.
Yeah.
Okay. I would say that I've not had an experience in numerology, but I have other experiences that I think we should touch upon because they're similar lines, right?
Yeah.
I also didn't really believe in the whole like astrology numbers bullshit, like the stars align type shit. I didn't really believe that too much, but I think if you ever ask me what my belief is about the universe, I did believe there's a source.
Yeah.
Right? But I will say that my grandma, she's really religious. At least the one when I was living in the village, so the one that wakes up at 4 and all that, right? So she's really religious, and she does a lot of things like she won't eat meat on Fridays, and she does these pujas every like 8 a.m. on some like Wednesdays, for example. Like she'll do these things. She has like a whole temple like made in her house in the corner of the bedroom, like all the God's pictures there, and she's really into it, right? But she's also really into astrology. So apparently, when I was born, without me even knowing it, she got my whole map done. So they got my birthday, the year, the time, and all that, and they made all the stars and everything, and they did the map and they made it. And I didn't really even know about it, but when we went to India this time at her house, they actually pulled out the scroll, and then it's all written in Assamese. So if you might know, in India, there's like hundreds of different languages. Like every like village you go to is a different language. It's insane. So Assamese is the language of Assam, which is the state we were in. So, and we asked her, like, can you read this out for us? And she doesn't even know much about me as a person because we don't interact much because she lives all the way there. I've only visited her like 3 times in my life. That's it. And I was shocked by the accuracy of it.
It's weird, dude. That shit is weird.
It told me things about myself that like not a lot of people really even know. Like it said pretty good things. Like it said I'm a disciplined person. Yeah. I think it's pretty. I would say it's accurate. It said I'm a disciplined person. But even random details, like I'm a very fickle-minded. It's very true. The last 3 years are fickle-minded. But it said it would be at its peak when I'm 15. And 15 is the age when like a lot of like shit in my life started changing as well. It said I'm afraid of water, which I think is true because I am a little afraid of drowning and like boats and stuff. I get pretty sick on them. But those are just a few details. But the accuracy to which all the details were, there wasn't a single detail that was wrong, which is insane. and then it also like projects my life forward. And luckily, I think like mine was like really, really positive. But like it gives me like a sense of happiness because it says that I'll be famous. Is one of the things it said, which I'm hoping is through the podcast. But we also got some done for like my siblings and stuff, like my sister, and it was like scarily accurate for her as well. It said
that's weird, bro.
Like one of the things about my sister that she loves like traveling with us and stuff, but she'll like, oh, it's 10 a.m. like she'll be sleeping in, like, oh, let's go on this hike, but she's like lazy. Her astrological thing literally said she loves to travel but is lazy. That gave me like shivers, bro. There was so much more stuff in there.
Like,
yeah, like it gives you this random things that are so spot on, and then I'll say things like my sister had some pretty positive things too. Like she said like she'll have a handsome husband or something. My dad's friend is also really into this, but she's like white, so we went to India, we got it done for her, and it said that she'll only have daughters, and it was true, because she has three daughters right now.
This shit is crazy.
It said she would marry twice, and it was true. So I do think there's a source now.
There's something out there, like there might not be like what we perceive as like a god based off the religion that we stem from, but there is something out there. Like, and the reason why I believe in numerology, and maybe not like, I don't know too much about astrology, but like I'm not opposed to it. I'm open-minded to that. But the reason why I believe in numerology is not only just my personal experience, but like in my opinion, everything is math. Everything is tied back to math. Mm. Like there's so much that can prove that. Yeah, there's so much that can tie back to it, and I think like with math, like it's not just numbers that can break down like the science behind it. There's also like you can break it down by just personal experiences and words as well. And I think that's why like I'm so in tune with like that number. You know what I mean? Like that's why I believe in it more than like others might believe in like certain shit. Like others might think I'm crazy or anything like that, but like I don't know. Like it's just something that you can't really describe. Like there's certain things in this world like we just can't like comprehend. You know what I mean? Like we can't understand like why this is that for that reason. But
I think that there is an energy force out there, but it's hard for us to understand it within the limitations of a human mind, right?
Yeah.
Our human mind works in very specific ways. Like it likes to create systems of things. There's like different ways our human mind works, right? To try to make sense of the world. And I don't think we have like a big enough mind. Like we can only comprehend 3 dimensions. I don't think we have a big enough mind to comprehend what that force is. But I think there have been people throughout history that have had access to that force, and when they try to translate it to other people, it manifests as a religion. And I think that's the reason why, if we take like 3-4 different religions, like some of the most popular ones, there's a lot of similarities amongst them. While the details themselves are different, the concept of heaven and hell is true in like Hinduism. It's also true in like Christianity. It's true in so many different the concept of like angels and devils, the concept of demons and the good and the bad. There's so many similarities in the religion that I think it's people who had felt the source try to communicate it through a human mind by creating these stories and everything. Because the human mind creates stories a lot. Like everything around us is like a story or a belief truth. And I think because of that, even the original religions, I think if you take them at the basis, they were all kind of similar. And then with time, obviously, I think religion has been used as a tool of power in multiple times, so things have changed with time. So now they seem even more distinct today. But I think it's something to be explored more, and something that I want to get more into, especially as someone who wasn't really big into it in the past.
Yeah. I think at some point in your life, I'm not saying anytime soon, you should definitely
read about neurology.
That and indulge into like psychedelics with the right people. I'm being so serious. I think it'd be really interesting to see like what your experience is with that.
My opinion,
because it's not like, don't think it's like anything else. Because I'm being so serious. When I took it for the first time, it made me realize a lot of things about myself. The first time I took it, like it made me realize like how much like family meant to me. Like I felt like almost like a burning need to like call my family, because I was in Miami at the time when I first took it at a beach. And like when it really started hitting me, I was like, I need to call my family. Like, and it wasn't just like because I was like, oh my god, I'm tripping. Like it was just like, hey Alex, she's my cousin. It's like how did Luke do at his wrestling tournament? You know what I mean? Because he was like doing wrestling for the first time. I was like, how did he do? Like, did he win? Blah blah blah. She was like breaking it down. I'm like, that's good. I'm like, you guys gotta come down to Miami. Like, be serious. Like, it's so nice down here, bro. Like right on the beach. Like I can just feel the sun. And then like same thing with my mom. Like my mom like had some like business meeting. I asked her how it went. And like it just made me like really like realize I'm like I really want to take care of my family and be in a position where like I could do good for them, because they've done so much good for me. And I was just like, it made me realize like a lot of shit, you know what I mean? And it made me realize like it really like made it easy to understand like what's good or what's bad, because you get an actual feeling when you're experiencing something, like if it has good or bad energy. Like when I was looking at my phone, I was on it, like, I got a really bad energy, because I was looking at like a lot of music album covers that were from like these rappers like Future and Gunna and stuff like that, and like some of the covers were a little explicit, you know what I mean? And it didn't have good energy to it. And some of the music, like I didn't want to hear the music, it's like it didn't feel good. But I was listening to like, you know, more acoustic things, like I don't know, just like more vibrant, more lively music, and like I felt good, like I felt like a good energy. Putting my feet in the sand, grounding, like people always say that's good for you, like that felt so good. Like when I was on the trip, the water felt like I was like supposed to be by the ocean. Like it felt like that's where like we're supposed to be as like a civilization. Like we're supposed to be by water at all times, and it just made you like just realize like the little things, appreciate nature so much more than you would like on an average day basis. It made me realize like what my priorities were. And I think like knowing like, because you strike me as someone who's quite reflective and like, you know, very like analytical about like your surroundings and the people you're with. And I think if you took that with like the right people, like a good group of people, I think you would like learn a lot more, not just about yourself, but about just like overall life. Like you'll see what I mean.
I'll tell you my opinion. I'm genuinely like really interested in this. Yeah. I've heard a lot of stories like the one you're telling me right now, and I've heard a lot of positive stories as well. Because I think there's something around it where you're able to see your mind in a whole different way, that I'm really interested in exploring more, and I might consider doing it at some point, maybe in a more like safer, like maybe even, I know a lot of people even doing clinical settings, which helps, and I might maybe even like with people as well. But what I think is I guess I could tell you my opinion in drugs in general, that I think I've seen so much beauty in the world. If I genuinely look at my life, like there's definitely been moments that I felt really, really beautiful to me. And blissful, and like fill me with dopamine. And one of the things I'm worried about is that when a drug like puts you at such a high that it's like the best feeling I've ever had before, I think that all those feelings, they just don't feel as great as when you're on that high of the drug. So I don't want to lose what I have already, that I'm grateful that I've had these beautiful experiences. I don't want to reach a point where that, now that I've felt what it feels like to be on that drug, that everything else kind of follows that. And then for like, and also like if you take a drug once, no one just takes a drug once, right? I'm not saying addiction, but I'm saying that either you take it or you don't take it, right? If you take it, even if you're having it once a year, it's in like a cycle then, right? And I just think that I don't feel a need to. Obviously, it'll be such an amazing experience probably if I do it at the right time, at the right place, and everything, and I take in, not even psychedelic, but a drug in general, that I know that would be really, like, it'd feel great. But then everything else is relative to that. And I wonder if I will even be able to have those same experiences I had that were so beautiful to me without the drug, without remembering how good that felt and how like mediocre this feels instead. So I've always like stayed away from the community of like just taking drugs in general and just taking substances. I try to stay away from.
No, I respect that.
I also have I think I have a little bit of addictive personality. And I've noticed that in myself, and I think that's why I'm so big on just like trying to stay away from shit, because I know that I struggle to get away from shit. I think quitting jacking off, I know we're going back there, like I don't even watch porn, and it was still like hard. I can't explain how hard that was.
I 100%. Because
I would have this clarity for like a whole day that I don't want to do this shit, and even if I do it for once a month, I'm fine. But the thing is, like, when you really like, when you know with clarity you don't want to do it, but then you wake up in the middle of the night and you realize you just did it, and you were like extremely unconscious, and the craving just comes and you forget everything else, and like, I think breaking that was like the most difficult thing in my life, and I just want to stay away from anything that has the potential for that. And I also know a lot of people that have taken it and then they just like fucking abuse it. Like a lot of people in my dorm that I lived in, like they used to take psychedelics like every week and just fuck around. And
that's just retarded.
Obviously that's not what you're doing, right? Totally.
I do it.
I just stay away from it because like there's always a potential that I accidentally fall there and I don't know how to get out of it.
No. That's really. You seem like you have really like good sense of like self-control. Like you understand like, okay, like I know like how I am, and I know like if I were to indulge in this, it would not have like the best outcome or the best effect on me. So like I'm gonna like better off just stay a little more like reserved and kind of stay away from that. And that's like really, that's another good trait you got, like being able to have a really good sense of like self-control, because a lot of people don't have that, especially nowadays. Like people just want to give into immediate dopamine effects like in any which way they can take, you know what I mean? But I don't know, I just feel like out of anything you could take,
that would be the best.
That would be the best. I think it depends on the person.
It's less also about feeling good, but it's more about the reflective insights you get. That I know a lot. I'm also interested in. I'm gonna read more about it.
Yeah, it's very. I think it depends on the person. I think some people just aren't cut for it. But you just strike me as someone that's like you would gain so much from something like that. But 100%, I know you're probably gonna do so much research into it, and you're gonna take some time before you make a decision. Okay, I want to do this, and you don't understand like when you want to do it, who you want to do it with, but. I'm just telling you now, I think if you were to do it, you would have a great time with it.
I appreciate that, man. Markus Corredor, thank you so much. Pleasure doing 2.5 hours with you.
Always good to be on the podcast. I hope to come back, do something a little more.
We'll
maybe
build some Legos next time.
Yeah, some Lego
we'll
shit.
Some hoops.
Fucking.
Well, I'll get some random head that I think you won't like. We'll see how that goes.
We'll see how it goes.
All right, bro. Let's call it a day.
Peace out.